Council, if you will come to order, it is 6:45 PM on June the 12th, and we are convening into a joint session with EDC 4B and the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 1 Board. At this time, I'll allow the chair to call those boards to order.
EDC 4B, if you will come to order, the time is 6:46, date June 12th. Also, I'd like to call to order the TERS Board, time 6:46, June 12th.
All right, and Sean, I believe you have some business for each board to conduct before we go to item 1 on.
Yeah, we've got item number 2018-261T, consider and take appropriate action regarding the EDC 4B minutes dated March 27, 2018.
Travis moved, and who seconded? Corey seconded.
All right, all those in favor?
Wake up.
Okay,
All right,
passed.
all right, motion passes. For the TERS Board, item number 2018-264-T. Councilman Lamont, please.
Come to order.
Yeah, you can call him out. Wouldn't be the first time.
No.
Consider and take appropriate action regarding the TERS number 1 minutes dated March 27, 2018.
I'll second it.
All right. All
Who
those in
moved?
favor?
Corey?
That was
Oh, okay.
Chair Hall
Chair
with
had
the
moved.
motion. We had a second by Travis. All those in favor? Motion passes. Mayor?
All right. Then I'll read this section for all of our boards that are going to join in executive session. Pursuant to the following designated section of the Texas Government Code, annotated Chapter 551, Texas Open Meetings Act, the council will convene an executive session to discuss the following. A, Section 551087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations under subsection 1, to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have, locate, stay, or expand in and near the territory of the governmental body, and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations, and subsection 2, to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect that the town seeks to have locate within the territory of the town. Possible amendments to ODC agreement. It is 6:48, and we will go into executive session for the TERS number 1, EDC 4B, and the town council. Want to adjourn? Council and boards, if you would come to order, please. We are reconvening into our joint session at 7:11 p.m. And I'll turn the meeting over to Sean Bone at this time.
Call to order from executive session, the TERS Board at 7:12, and call to order the EDC 4B at 7:12.
All right, you still have the floor, sir.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended agreements in executive session. I'm going to turn this over to David Dodd to spell out the specifics.
Okay, you have 2 agreements, so EDC will have to have 2 motions and 2 votes, and so will TERS and then council. The first motion, I'll just do breadwinners first since it's the oldest agreement, would be motion to approve the amended economic development agreement for breadwinners as presented with these 2 changes. 1, the definition and the description of property and the acreage on page 3, and 2, on page 6, and paragraph, and section 4.1A, it says, or upon the date developer's debt is paid in full. Instead of developer's debt, it should say EDC's obligation. Now, the motion for HG Supply will be the exact same changes, but just for HG Supply instead of breadwinners.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve
I second.
Is that for breadwinners?
for breadwinners,
Okay.
Second.
and then I'll make a motion to
Or
approve.
vote on that one.
Oh, sorry. All right, motion passes.
Sorry.
Motion passes. And then I'll make a motion to approve for HG Supply
As presented, or as,
as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes.
Now you need to do that for TERS if that was for EDC.
And then for TERS for HG Supply, I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion passes. And then for Breadwinners, I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
And I'll second that one as well.
Motion passes.
council.
All right, then I'll assume the chair back. And council, we are on item 2, consider and take appropriate action regarding the executive session. And I will recognize Ryland Rowe for a motion.
Thank you, sir. First, I'll make a motion to approve the amended economic development agreement between the town, TERS number 1, EDC 4B, and OTD TC LLC for the Breadwinners property as presented with the following amendments. One being changing the acreage under the definition of property in Article 2 to reflect the appropriate acreage, and 2 being changing page 6, section 41A, changing developer's debt to EDC's obligation.
Have a second? And it is seconded by Councilmember Jensen. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. It is unanimous. I would entertain a motion again, Ryland.
Yeah, I'll move that we approve the amended economic development agreement between the town of Trophy Club, TERS number 1, EDC 4B, and OTD TC Compound LLC, which is for HG Supply, make as presented with the following amendments. One being changing the definition of property in Article 2 to reflect the actual property or actual size of the parcel, and the second being Section 41A, changing developer's debt to EDC's obligation.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor, show your hands. It is unanimous. It does pass. Ryland?
That was both of them.
Oh, you did EDC and TERS in one motion for each one of them?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Was that okay, David, wherever you went? Okay, all right. All right. So at this time, if EDC and TERS, I'll turn the meeting back over to Sean if you want to adjourn your meeting, if you're through.
Make a motion to adjourn EDC 4B. All right, the meeting is adjourned. Make a motion to adjourn TERS.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, thank you. You can stay around, and we do have swearing in and some refreshments. So if y'all want to stay, you can. You don't have to, but.
You don't have to stay.
You heard.
But Tim's not going to like
You
you.
just got to get out of those seats.
You don't have to stay.
Is it for Tim? I'll stay with me.
Nobody came to mind.
I'm going to move away from the mic.
We were here.
And
All
that's
right.
what matters, the most important.
All right, we are in regular session as a council only. It is 7:16 PM. At this time, I'm going to ask everybody to stand, and we'll be led in an invocation by Town Secretary Frimbres, and be led in the pledges by Councilmember Kurtz, first to the American flag and second to the Texas flag. Would you please stand?
Y'all please bow. Dear Jesus, thank you for this time to meet together. We ask that you please give us strength and wisdom. Help us to make the right decisions tonight. Please be with our educators, our firefighters, and our police. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, Tim?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated. We're at citizens' presentations. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on any matter, whether or not it is posted on the agenda. The council is not permitted to take action on or discuss any presentations made to the council at this time concerning an item not listed on the agenda. The council will hear presentations on specific agenda items prior to the council addressing those items. You may speak up to 4 minutes or a time limit determined by the mayor or presiding officer. To speak during this time, you must complete a speaker's form that indicates the topics for your statement. Topics of presentation should be limited to matters over which the council has authority. Had one person sign up to speak, and I'm not sure I have the name right. Is it Kaylee?
That's correct.
And McRae? All right, would you please come to the podium, adjust the mic, state your name and address, and then you have the floor.
Sure. I'm Kaylee McRae. My address is 1 Heritage Court. So I'm here tonight to request that the town allocates in the next budget a complete redesign and redo of landscaping on the island that is on Indian Creek near my house between Hill and Heritage Court. In the past, we've made requests to the city or to the town through Mr. Seidel and Mr. Adams, and little has changed. We've lived in Trophy Club for 14 years, and the island, in my opinion, is like the worst one in town. We currently have 14 really old, diseased-looking Bradford pears on it. They're very closely spaced, they don't let any light through, and just dirt with no plants. The maximum lifespan of a Bradford pear is 20 to 25 years. It takes about 10 years for them to get full size. So we moved in 2004, they were full size. So that means they were planted in the early mid to 90s. And that would put the trees' ages right now between 23 and 28 years old, which is already way beyond their age. So these Bradford pear trees will need to be replaced soon with a hardwood species or something else. Currently, nothing will grow underneath them, like I said before, due to the close spacing. They need to be thinned out or removed. So let the town decide that. When Trophy Club expanded and made well-landscaped islands across the town, this island near my house and a few others kind of across from the condos were not brought up to the same standards. So I'm asking the council to please look at the island between Heritage Court and Hill Court and a few others in front of the condos when you drive by them, and to please allocate money to bring them up to the nice standards of the majority of the islands in Trophy Club. And I will follow up with the town later on this. So thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ms. McRae. All right, anybody else seeking the floor to speak during citizens' presentations? All right. Seeing no one seeking the floor, we'll move on to announcements and reports. Receive the town manager classes update and provide input regarding the following. Staffing and sound wall. Mr. Class.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to announce that the police department is nearly at full staffing after quite some time with the hiring of our newest captain, Captain Bobby Tillman, who's a retired supervisory special agent with the FBI and a former police chief at the Jackson, Mississippi Airport Authority. Captain Tillman will begin his service with the town next Monday, the 18th. We've also, with our hiring, for the police department, our 3 police cadets started the police academy yesterday, and upon graduation will return to us in November to start service with the town as well. Parks and Rec department completed the hiring of seasonal staff recently for our pool and day camp. We recently onboarded over 50 part-time employees for the summer. And then Human Resources is actively working to fill the only remaining vacancies that we have, which are 3, one for the park superintendent, one for the building inspector, and 1 streets maintenance worker. And then with regard to the sound wall, last week we received an update. Holly, do we have those photos?
Yes, just click through.
All right. Excuse me just a minute. We received an update from TxDOT on the sound walls. As you can see from this first photo, the west wall along Highway 114 is approximately 50% complete, and the east wall is 100% complete on the drill shafts. It's also 100% complete on the installation of the stone columns along the east wall, and the east wall concrete mow strip is now complete. I also noticed today as I was driving by that they're actually starting to install the panels on the wall, so it looks like it's moving along nicely. I've been told that that will be complete in the coming weeks. The west wall is being sequenced slightly behind the east wall, and when both are complete, they'll stand at 14 feet high. We reached out to TxDOT today to try to get a date for an anticipated date for completion, but we weren't able to get a response back. We would expect it to be in the coming months, though. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Eric, do you have a question?
Yes, sir. Are we paying the cadets?
Yes, the cadets are being paid while they're in the academy.
Right. Have we done that before? We hired cadets before they've gone through the academy?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
And two separate occasions, the last two cadets that we put through.
And if they don't make it?
Through the academy?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, then we stop paying them. We also have an agreement with them, a 2-year service agreement post-academy.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, sir.
All right, Philip, you have the floor.
Yeah, I had a question, or a comment, I guess. Can you, at some point, get us a maintenance schedule for behind the wall? So in other words, what we can anticipate, what we can tell citizens will be accomplished, behind the wall to keep that maintained?
Yeah, happy to do that.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, seeing no one, we will move on to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the town council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. At this time, I would like to remove item number 6. Would anybody like to move adoption of the consent agenda items 4 and 5?
Make a motion that we approve consent agenda items 4 and 5.
Do you have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, Eric, did you second?
Yes, sir.
All right. Moved by Ryland Rowe, seconded by Jensen. Call for the vote. All in favor of approving consent agenda with items 4 and 5, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. It is unanimous. That passes. All right, item 6. Consider and take appropriate action regarding repealing resolution number 2015-15 and adopting a new resolution amending the handbook for elected and appointed officials and providing an effective date.
No, you get one.
So I think Greg is seeking the floor, and he is handing out what he's going to say, I think, so you can better follow along with what he is going to say. Greg, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'd like to, I guess, modify this amendment. So I'd like to make a motion, if you guys would, you each have a copy? We can go over it. On the pages where it says Town Council Appointments Committee. At the first Town Council meeting in June, the council shall establish a Town Council Appointments Committee tasking with making recommendations to the full council regarding appointments to all boards, commissions, and corporations, herein after Appointments Committee. This is the language that I'm recommending or trying to get approved. The Appointments Committee shall be comprised of the mayor or his designee and 2 council members. Should a designee be appointed, the designee will serve the full term or remaining term. The committee shall have the discretion to add additional non-voting ex officio members to the committee as determined appropriate. Then in the interview process, that starts, staff liaison shall be responsible for scheduling interviews for each candidate who submits an application for their respective board, commission, or corporation. Typically, these interviews will be held at a regular interval as determined by the Appointments Committee. In the event of scheduling conflicts or workload demands, alternate dates may be selected. This is the change. If a council member is unable to attend an interview meeting, the meeting can be held with 2 council members. And the last paragraph in that sentence said, on page 65, I've struck. I don't think it's needed. So I'd
All
like to
right,
make a
so I
motion.
have a motion to make those changes to the proposed document that's before us of rules of procedures. Do I have a second? I'll second that. So Greg moved, I seconded, it's up for discussion.
Okay,
My name's on there first.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to do a point of order and just divide the question.
All right. And so
Between the.
you're trying to divide kind of the top portion of the motion and the bottom portion of the motion, is that right?
Correct.
All right. So we have a request to divide the order, and so I'm going to remove both speakers. If you want to speak again, you're going to need to come back to the item that we are on. So the first item that we're going to call is the top of the page that's titled Town Council Appointments Committee. All right? So that item is up for discussion at this point. Any discussion about that particular item? So Eric, you came up?
Yes, sir. I like exactly how the amendment was, not Greg's amendment, but how it was presented to us. I like exactly how it's written. I do not support adding this language. In my opinion, stating that the mayor must be on this board is not the appropriate thing to do. And to take it a step further, if the mayor wishes to be on this committee and does not have a majority support of council to be on said committee, maybe it shouldn't be mayor. So I don't think we need the verbiage requiring the mayor to be on it.
All right, Rylan.
You answered my question by asking, so your intention here was to give the mayor kind of the first right of refusal. If he doesn't want to, okay,
Right.
got it.
All right, and Greg.
Well, that was kind of my point. First right of refusal, or it's a sign of respect also.
All right, and anybody else? Seeing no one else requesting the floor, I would call the vote on the first portion of this item. So, yes,
I'd
Philip.
like to amend the motion to remove the Appointments Committee shall be comprised of the mayor or his designee and 2 council members. Should a designee be appointed, the designee will serve the full or remaining term.
Second.
All right. So Philip is making a motion to amend the motion to remove the blue portion of the motion. And so I have a second by Jensen.
Does that mean it would be one motion for the top and bottom then?
No, it's just the top.
Still
He's
the
just
top.
dealing with the top at this point.
So what are you replacing it with?
Nothing.
So why don't you just strike it?
So really, what I'm trying to do is strike the blue and add back anything that you've taken out. So in other words, I think you've taken out the Appointments Committee shall be comprised of 3 council members, and the committee shall have the discretion. You have that part. So all I'm taking out is your blue section and adding back the Appointments Committee shall be comprised of 3 council members.
All right, so is that your motion you're adding back?
Correct. I'm striking his blue section, which is what I read, and then I'm adding back what is in our packet. The Appointments Committee shall be comprised of 3 council members.
Which is the second sentence of the blue?
Correct.
The Appointments Committee shall be comprised of 3 council members,
Correct.
and the committee shall have the discretion to add additional non-voting ex officio members to the committee as determined appropriate.
Right, which is, he has that in there in black.
All right,
It's basically removing his blue and adding the Appointments Committee shall be comprised of 3 council members.
yeah. And you're not including the first sentence of the blue that was in our packet.
No, okay, let's make this simple. I amend the motion to remove his entire Town Council Appointments Committee.
Okay.
And I add back
Right.
the blue section that's in our packet.
Okay.
That's simple.
Okay, that's easier. All right. So we have a motion and a second. The motion is to remove the,
His pair.
his paragraph and go back to the original proposed that's in the packet.
Correct.
Okay? Any so I have people wanting to speak. Does people want to speak on this particular motion? Philip, I assume you already did that.
Make my amendment correct.
Okay. And Greg, you're next.
No, you just didn't take us out, I don't think, the last time.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, I think you're
No, I have a question.
well.
All right.
You're good.
Alicia?
So, 6 council members, so the mayor can't be on the committee if
No, he can,
he can't, okay.
if he's appointed.
Rylan?
Just a question for y'all. Can y'all think of any similar situations like this where we require the mayor to be on a committee or a subcommittee? Do we have any that y'all can think of? Okay. I couldn't think of any, but I wanted to see if y'all could think of one. That's all I have.
All right. Anybody else want to speak on this particular motion? All right. All those in favor of the motion, which in essence takes us back to what was in the packet? Is that right, Philip?
It's an amendment.
Amendment.
It's an amendment.
An amendment, right.
Correct.
But it's still a motion. All right, any other discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the amendment, please show your hands. All opposed, same sign. So Lamont and Sanders voted against, the rest voted for. It does carry. We will now move to the second section. Well, actually,
You split.
it was split, so we now have the interview process.
You have to vote on the motion. That was the amendment motion.
Back to the main motion, which is duplicates the amended motion.
Well, wouldn't we vote on the main motion once we dealt with the division? Wouldn't it come back after the division? I don't know.
No, you have
No,
to
we
take care
All right.
of item one first.
Dividing would
Okay.
be dividing, yeah.
All right, so we move to approve the amendment to the motion, which was divided. You're dealing with just the Town Council Appointments Committee, which is in your packet, taking the blue information that was going into the packet and striking the red. Any questions? All right, all those in favor, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. Sanders and Lamont voted against. It does carry. And you are now back to the second part of the motion that was divided, the interview process. And so, Philip?
Okay, I would like to amend this motion to remove his entire interview process, and I would like to strike the line on top of page 65 of the packet that says group interviews are conducted for most vacancies. However, individual interviews may be conducted for certain positions at the request of the Appointments Committee, and substitute it with the Appointments Committee shall make every effort to interview the applicants. It is not required that there be more than one member of the committee at an interview, although it is recommended that at least two members be present. Having other council members who are not members of the committee present in interviews is not recommended.
All right, so to follow that, at the top of page 65, the sentence that begins with however, is that right?
No, group. So.
Oh, group, beginning with group. Group
All-
interviews are
Right.
conducted for most vacancies and the however sentence, right?
Correct.
You're striking that.
Striking all of that and adding, or substituting that with, the Appointments Committee shall make every effort to interview the applicants. It is not required that there be more than one member of the committee at an interview, although it is recommended that at least two members be present. Having other council members who are not members of the committee present in interviews is not recommended.
All right,
Exactly your language.
yeah. All right, so we have a second by Jensen, was moved by Schaffner. Ryland, you have the floor.
Yeah, I want to say, I like it. It accomplishes the same thing Greg passed out, but adds the piece about kind of helping us avoid a potential quorum issue. So I think that's a good change. I'm for it.
Any other discussion?
I should give credit to the mayor, because it was actually his language, so. So hopefully he'll vote with us.
Wait and see. I'm not sure you said it exactly. No, I'm just kidding. All right, all in favor, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. It is unanimous. It is amended. Now we'll vote on the main motion as amended. All in favor, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. It does pass. So we have dealt with item 6. Item 7, administration of oath of office and presentation of certificates of election to Tim Kurtz, Councilmember Place 4. At this time, Tim, if you would like to go to the podium, and I'll ask Judge Chambers to come forward, and he'll conduct the various swearing-in aspects.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you. All right, first, the statement of appointed officer, which is the anti-bribery statement. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, you were elected, or as a reward to secure your appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. And now the oath of office. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Trophy Club Town Council council member place 4 of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help you God?
I do.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I need you to sign right here.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and here's your certificate.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Here, let's get a picture
Oh,
of
we need a
this.
picture.
Very impressive.
Okay, thank you.
Picture at the back.
At least you took my picture of the back. Only allotted one per picture.
Oh, you wanted us to go back to the flags? We will in just a second. Okay, yeah, probably good. All right, so we're going to take a short recess at 7:39, and we'll invite you to share in some refreshments at the back. Afterwards, we'll then allow Councilmember Kurtz to make some comments. So we are in recess. Council, if you will come to order, we will return from recess at 7:55. Item 8, remarks to and from Tim Kurtz, Councilmember Place 4. Tim, I'll let you go first. Be from Tim Kurtz.
I'll be brief. I just want to thank the residents for entrusting me with this position for the next 3 years, and for the council members and staff for putting up with me for the next 3 years. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody wish to address Tim?
Oh, and make America great again is what my son wanted me to make sure to say. So we just went to D.C. last week. All our kids got hats.
Red hat.
And then had everyone yell at them all around New York City and D.C. It's pretty funny. It's pretty comical.
I love it.
Oh, boy.
True story.
Greg?
Well, how far we have come. When I got sworn in, the council told me I was not welcome.
I heard that earlier tonight, too.
So, it'll change. And unless I obeyed their rules, remember that?
Wow.
And then a second time we got sworn in, I was with Schaffner. We were sworn in a broom closet without any food. So this is very impressive. Yeah, we've come a long way. But anyway, congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
Ryland, you want the floor?
Yeah, I just want to say that it's been a privilege to get to serve with Tim. Trophy Club's very lucky to have a guy like Tim willing to volunteer his time and expertise. I've learned a lot from him and gotten to be a good friend of his over the last several years, and I look forward to 3 more years of learning at the feet of the master operator.
Eric?
Love what you bring to the council, Tim. I knew you were the right choice 3.5 years ago, even though we maybe had to talk you off the ledge.
Maybe.
I'm glad you stayed in it, and so thank you. Glad you decided to do this. You're a great asset to the town.
I appreciate it.
All right, anybody else?
You got nothing?
Nothing for
Well, out of everyone up here, I've known Tim the longest, so you have a special place for all your help and guidance in my first year here. I really appreciate it, and we are very, very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
I'll comment too, Tim. I really appreciate everything you've added to the council for the past 3 years. Was pleased that you decided that you would continue. That was the first decision you had to make.
Yes.
And then was even more pleased when you didn't have an opponent.
Yes.
So that made it even easier. So welcome once again, and look forward to working with you for the next 2 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. We'll move to item number 9, receive the mayor's State of the Town address. So this is an annual thing. The charter calls for it. And Philip called me on the carpet last year and said I didn't accomplish what the charter wanted. So I have 22 pages just for Philip.
Hey, can you do that thing you do where you make someone else run the meeting?
Yeah.
No, I don't really. But anyway. We could do that too. All right, so the last 12 months since my last mayor's report, It's been a year of constant improvements in many ways in Trophy Club. We did move into the only building we've ever owned, and this new Town Hall and Police Building, and excited that that finally happened for the residents of Trophy Club. I believe it'll serve us well for many years. The second thing that was exciting, and I believe a significant improvement, was the decision that the council made to hire Tom Class as our town manager. It has been a rewarding time to see Tom work. Glad he retired from the FBI, glad he lived in Trophy Club, and glad he decided for this and that the council selected him. The professionalism, ethics, integrity, and leadership skills that you bring continue to be a welcome change for me and I believe the citizens of Trophy Club. Our town has grown, and we all are working to engage in new residents, to interface with the town and become involved in various ways in the town, and to learn what it really means that Trophy Club is a great place to call home. It's not just a slogan. We all want a quality of life here to be exemplary. One characteristic of our community is diversity. That attribute is certainly evident here, and we reap the synergistic effort of the different people, ages, thoughts, education, religions, and so on. We are the beneficiaries of this diversity and lifeblood. Building community is not the sole job of elected officials. However, it is shared by all of us. I appreciate your phone calls, your emails, and your input. Residential growth has been in the forefront of everything the town has been doing for maybe up to 9 years. We currently have a total of 43 vacant residential lots available compared to 90 at this time last year, with 7 houses under construction. And although I stated those numbers, they could have changed at any moment. That was the last email I had for those. Our average home appraised value in 2017 was $428,000 plus, with a total taxable value of all property to be $1.68 billion. We had an increase of 10.57% in 2017 that was over 2016, and about 5% of that increase came from new homes. Our primary data for the 2018 fiscal year, our preliminary data for 2018 fiscal year, has an average home appraised value of $447,000 plus. The taxable value of $1.82 billion, which represents a little over an 8% increase at week 11 of the appraisal process, recognizing that the appraisal process changes every week what those values are. They go up and down. We do expect by the end of this cycle that we'll come out somewhere between 4 and 5% increase over the previous year. We received our 2017 audit report, and in the fiscal year 2017, we once again received what is called an unmodified opinion with no significant deficiencies. The 2017 unassigned fund balance for the general fund ended at $4.4 million compared to $3.91 back in 2016, which that particular value of $4.4 million is 43% of the total general fund expenditures. That puts us at a very comfortable position to have cash in the bank to operate even in maybe lean times. Over the past 4 years, council has focused on bringing new restaurants and shopping to town. We did celebrate the opening of Holiday Inn, finally, with its restaurant and bar, adding to our tax base and amenities for our residents and guests. And later this year, we'll be enjoying HG Supply's new concept. There has been additional retail space added, including a medical office building added to the area across from the high school and the middle school, a Montessori school, an ice cream shop called 32 Below, a mortgage company, and soon to open a Marco's Pizza, along with a ship shop next to the 7-Eleven along 114. Last year at this time, I thought we should be in the initial development of PD 30, which is the 26 acres located at Highway 114 and Trophy Club Drive, the clock tower site. It's called Trophy Club Town Center by the developer. The plan still allows for apartments, townhomes, a hotel, commercial pad sites, and is in fact under construction at this point, even though many of us hated to see the disappearing of many trees. The litigation between Beck and the town was settled out of court, with Beck paying the town $500,000 up front and an additional $250,000 over the next 2 years. All of this money was designated as funds in lieu of parkland dedication. The plan development agreement calls for most of this development to happen at the same time. However, anticipate that the townhomes and commercial retail pad sites will completed prior to the apartments, and we understand that the apartments might take up to 18 months before they're actually leasing them. Planned capital improvements for street reconstruction and drainage projects require us to issue 4.6 million certificate of obligation bonds for these projects. And because of our AA+ bond rating, we received an outstanding interest rate. These funds will be used for projects going through 2021 and include Phoenix Drive, Meadowbrook Drive, Sundance Court, and parts of Indian Creek and Trophy Club Drive. Throughout the last year, we've continued to place pressure to get Highway 114 to install the required sound wall, which is well underway and should be completed, I said, in a few months. I never believe TxDOT says a few weeks, but okay. We'll be happy if it does happen. The town continues to receive recognition for the services we provide, along with our choice of lifestyle. We recently received the recognition as the safest town in Texas. It's our long and deep history of volunteerism that we as a town find community where we experience quality of life and appreciation of those aspects. This past year, we have enjoyed having a person out in our lobby to greet those coming to Town Hall. This volunteer program was the idea of town manager and Tom Class and his wife Kelly. Thanks to all those who have come up here and volunteered their time to sit out front and make people feel welcome. I would be amiss if I didn't express my appreciation to the council, of the council toward our town staff. Since hiring Tom Class as our town manager, we've been striving together to help build a management team that is second to none. Now let's look to the future, which part of what the charter calls for. 4 years ago, when I was elected as mayor, after serving 2 terms as mayor in 2005 to 2009, and 3 years on the MUD board, I was very optimistic about the relationship between the MUD and the town. I had been instrumental in negotiating a 99-year agreement between the MUD and the town for water and wastewater services, and it seemed like the stage was set to improve relations between 2 governmental entities. Although it took over a year, today we have an agreement with the MUD where the town operates the fire department. This agreement took the willingness of both the council and the MUD board to complete, and I want to express my gratitude for all those that were involved. Today, we have a majority of MUD board members that are newly elected board members. Our 2 governments are still something that could be simplified, and therefore offer benefits to our residents and businesses. I look forward to a new era of planning and cooperation between the 2 governments. The town charter calls for the mayor to annually set out needs and goals for the town. So after giving this much thought, I have narrowed it to 8 goals. Number 1, continue to maintain the highest standards of safety in our town for our residents, businesses, and students. That's surely a challenge, and has been a challenge as the police force had to come to full staffing. I was recently very impressed by the new hires of our captains and hope that that will help us continue to provide safety to everyone. Number 2, strive to set our 2018-2019 tax rate equal to our effective rate. This rate is the rate it would take to collect the equal amount of revenue it did the prior year from the same properties. If property values increase, the tax rate should go down. Last year was the first time in our history where we set our rate at the effective rate. I see it as a good challenge and something to strive for. I haven't found a single town or city in Texas that accomplish that fact. Number 3, continue to explore Phase 3 of the Trophy Wood development, which includes more restaurant and entertainment options. This development will require the construction of a parking garage to optimize its use of the land. We're still working through that process, and I think it's something that we should continue to focus on and try to strive to bring quality entertainment, restaurants, and parking to our small piece of retail land available that will help and provide services for our citizens. Number 4, develop a plan for how the MUD in the town can optimize its assets, services, and operations. I could have gotten very specific here, and I thought, well, I'll either leave something off or make somebody mad. So I would rather just to say, let's develop a plan to work together. Surely we can become more efficient, and surely it is a complicated matter to deal with the financial aspects of both entities. But let's work together and develop a plan that we can execute. Number 5, work with the developers of Trophy Club Town Center, formerly PD 30, to recruit high-end businesses and services. For the past 4 years, the council has focused on making this development a success. We worked with the developer to lower the number of apartments. We worked with the developer to lower the height of buildings. We worked with the developer to try to provide less commercial and retail pad sites, which we thought would have made, the way it was designed, made it unsuccessful because it would never fill up. Now construction has started. Now it's time for us to step up our efforts, seeing as though we are moving earth, and try to see how we can make this development better. It's surely not easy. There's surely a lot of strange, hard feelings through some of this process, but I call us and challenge us as a council to find ways to make it better so that the citizens enjoy it. It is going to happen. We just need to make it better. Item 6, implement a new web page and software to provide more relevant information to both council and residents. It's something we've talked about as a council and as staff for a while. I really want to push this for the next 2 years. I want to try to help make it happen. One of the unique things about this council is we actually have people who understand technology, and I think we can use that to make this better for everyone in the future. Number 7, work with our neighboring cities and towns on joint projects to benefit our broader communities. As we look at our neighboring communities, sometimes it might be a competition. One person gets an office building, one person gets a restaurant. I look at it as if something happens good for all in this area, we all benefit. We all like to go to new restaurants and shops. We benefit from the fact that new businesses move to the area and those people buy homes in Trophy Club. Everyone benefits, and we need to continue to work together on various joint projects. One of those projects that I've been working on for several months with the county, with Westlake and Southlake, is in fact a way to potentially use autonomous vehicles to transport people between our communities and their shopping areas. From my side of it, if I can get people to come to our restaurants, then it's a win for Trophy Club. Number 8, explore the opportunities for more civic-focused services, which might include a senior center and our meeting facilities. I think this coincides and maybe parallels somewhat with what we might do with our annex building or what we might do with Phase 3 of Trophy Woods Center. I think we need to look at where do we need to provide services to our citizens and where are we lacking. We probably won't all agree in some of that, but nevertheless, we should have those discussions. Our mission as council is to maintain Trophy Club's standing as a premier residential community and a great place to call home by protecting and promoting the interest of its residents, businesses, and property owners. Each council member has their unique gifts and talents and bring their viewpoints to our meetings to help us make the best decision as a council. Even though we may disagree at times on a subject, we enjoy making fun of each other and of our unique characteristics as a council. To each of you, I say thank you for your dedication of time, your willingness to serve the citizens of Trophy Club. As I close, I hope to begin quarterly citizens meetings that we're open to all. Look for more information about this in the coming weeks ahead. It is an honor for me to have served you as mayor for the past 4 years. I sincerely appreciate your confidence and support. At our council meeting on May 22nd, the council appointed Councilmember Philip Schaffner as our mayor pro tem. Philip will bring a wealth of knowledge and skill to our leadership, and I very much appreciate his willingness to step up. I believe I speak for the entire council when I express my gratitude to Councilmember Ryland Rowe for serving the past year as mayor pro tem. I want to thank all of the staff and thank the citizens for trusting this council and myself in helping to lead the town into the future. May we be blessed as we work together. Sincerely, Nick Sanders. Okay, that's item 9. We'll move to item 10. Greg, did you want the floor for 10 or what?
Yes.
Okay. Consider and take appropriate action regarding the developers agreement between the town of Trophy Club and NAP Trophy Club LP, and authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute all necessary documents. At this time, we do have a staff report that is before us that has an agreement that is there before us. And Tommy, did you want to say anything before we go into this?
No, I'll just be ready, Mayor and council, for any questions that you might.
All right, David, how about you?
Basically, this is just, we use the developers agreements when we're getting streets, infrastructure, things like that, to protect us from the things that are going to be dedicated to us. This situation was different than most others because there's not a lot in this development that's going to be dedicated to us. Most of the streets and roads, which is the reason they're not on there, are public access easements, so they'll remain private, which removes us from the responsibility for maintaining them down the road, is the reason they're not in there. That's why it's there. The
All
only
right.
thing really, you see the three items there, and that's all this really governs.
All right, Greg, you want the floor?
Yes, I'd just like to make a statement and clarify some of the misunderstanding on social media. This PD 30 decision was made 6 years ago. No one on this council was on that previous council.
How is that related to the agenda item?
Go ahead, Greg. Try to focus on this particular agreement.
No, it's okay. I'm voting against it, but I thought the residents had a right to know how this came about, but that's okay.
All right, Philip, you have the floor.
Yeah, I've got questions. I understand what you're saying, that this developers agreement only deals with those 3 items.
Yes, sir.
Will we potentially in the future make developers agreement with all the other developers who are putting in different?
Within PD 30?
Right.
No, sir. I talked to Mike Cilio today, who's the one who signed this agreement. He's with North American Properties. North American Properties has taken the lead in this development at the urging of the lender. So he has signed a contract with North Texas Construction for all of the improvements, paving, things like that in there, even though they're not in his. I specifically asked him about the 3 on this, and they are. And he's also basically acting like a general contractor for multiple reasons.
Okay, I guess, so how do we protect ourselves for, to make sure, so we have in the PD document that the developer, per se, has to do, so if they want to do the multifamily,
Yes.
they, at the same time, before they get a permit, whatever, they have to have the pads, which is 2 separate developers. So how are we going to protect ourselves to make sure that gets done? So in other words.
Timing and logistics?
Right, in other words, that you have 2 separate developers, correct? That own, they each own 2 separate parcels, but yet they have to do simultaneous construction per the PD document.
That'll be a
So
PD.
without something in place, how do we protect ourselves to make sure that happens?
What's in place is the zoning ordinance and the PD ordinance. You enforce the PD ordinance as zoning, as you would anywhere else. If they're not doing it right, they're not meeting the zoning, and the plan development allows you to put conditions like that on there. First step would be notification of them, phone call, then there's everything from citations to litigation.
But who are you citing? So in other words,
Whoever's,
not doing their part?
and it would also come in under permitting also.
So we had, we reached out to Mike Basilio today.
Yes, sir.
Several times to try to get some clarification. Earlier in the week, we thought that we might very well have additional development agreements. But because none of that is really becoming public, it's all private, it goes back to how do we control permitting and our ordinances. And so that's what Tommy has pointed out to us. In fact, on page 1 of that agreement, where at the top under background and explanation, items 1, 2, and 3, the only thing that the town is dealing with here is in fact drainage and storm sewer. There's a separate agreement between the MUD and the developer for water distribution and sanitary. The fact that below that it lists paving, landscaping, et cetera, all of those are things that will be done by the general contractor for the benefit of the various landowners. Once those are done, if you took the townhomes as an example, the townhomes will start their construction once those, I'm going to call them infrastructure, roads, get water down the street, those kind of things are accomplished. From the conversation that David had with Basilio, Basilio's responsible for all of that. So the agreement we have with Basilio is supposed to do that. So that's the way we kind of understand it today. Philip?
So you're saying that, well, just let me ask one other question on this. So you're saying that Basilio is responsible for these 6 items as well?
Yes.
Okay.
You're talking about on page 86 of the packet, page 5 of the agreement?
Yeah.
He told me today that he has signed a contract with North Texas Construction that includes all of that.
Okay, so I guess maybe that is what, because the paving is basically, I would assume it's the pad sites are included in that
Pad
paving.
sites, walkways, there are going to be streets in there.
Yeah.
They're just not coming to us. They're
'Cause
not going to be dedicated like they are in most subdivisions.
Well, you know what I didn't read is each of the items shall be completed concurrently with this agreement. So these, I would think, are going to be done same time as all the rest of it is being done.
And to
Because
answer
he's signing that.
And to answer your question on enforcement, there's many different ways we can go about that.
Okay.
There's, as I said, from citations to litigation and everywhere in between. Notification, you're in breach of this contract, you're in breach of this ordinance, breach of this violation, breach of this, you're in violation of zoning.
Right.
It kind of depends on the situation.
Okay.
Eric?
Question for Mr. Dodd.
Sure.
Councilman Lamont states that he's going to vote against this agreement. What would happen if a majority of council vote against this agreement?
The purpose of this agreement is, as I said, if you're looking on page 5, page 86 of your packet, the water distribution system, sanitary sewer system, drainage, storm sewer. The purpose of this is to ensure they're built and ensure they're built to the standards before they're dedicated to the public, either us or MUD, a public entity.
And if
Yeah,
it
we would go
fails, what
through-
happens?
If this agreement's not there, we would be able, the enforcement provision, as Mr. Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Schaffner was asking, would be permitting, codes, making sure everything goes in.
So we would be unable to enforce those things without this agreement?
Not exactly. Right now, we can enforce it through ordinances and permitting and this agreement if it passes. If this agreement doesn't pass, you wouldn't be able to, say, breach of this agreement.
Thank you.
Wouldn't be able to what?
Bring a breach of this agreement as one of the things. You'd still have permitting and code inspections.
So, all right, so I have the floor at this time. So I would like to point out in the agreement, and Tom, you may help me, one of the pages lists a dollar amount and a percentage that will come to the town for, I think it says inspection of those items. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
On page 87. So this document outlines some charges that aren't related to any other charge we would make. So Eric, kind of for your point, permitting, all those other things wouldn't collect these dollars that we would be required to inspect if we actually want to see that it's done right. So part of this document is obligating the developer to pay us money based on what is the cost of the infrastructure that would come to us, the inspection. The MUD items, which are the water distribution and sewer, have a different agreement, and there's probably some money there that they're having to pay related to them, but I haven't seen those agreements. So it contains more than just how do we continue if we don't do it, but I understand everybody's concern about are we really protected for everything. And so I've spent the last 2 days bugging David and Tommy about how are we going to accomplish this task if what if happens. So I feel comfortable with it at this point. Ryland.
Yeah, I just wanted to build upon what you said there. In reviewing the content of the document, I mean, basically what it is a contract that obligates the developer to a great number of things and protects or adds to our ability to ensure that this is developed properly. So we do these for major developers for that reason. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we approve this developers agreement as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve by Rowe and a second by Jensen. All right. Any further discussion, any comments that Tommy or David want to make? I don't see anybody that's requested to speak. Are we ready? All right, thank you, gentlemen. All in favor of approving the motion to approve the developers agreement, please show your hands. All opposed, same sign. Everybody votes yes, except for Greg, who voted against. All right, motion does pass. Item 11, consider and take appropriate action regarding an ordinance amending section 8.02.003, declaration of nuisance within the town's code of ordinances such that all activity on Sunday is treated the same as Monday through Saturday and provide an effective date. Councilmember Rowe and Jensen asked this to come, and we have a handout that's coming from Greg, so please take an item and pass down. Just as a point for council, as we added some of these items on our agenda, the discussion was place something on consent agenda. Because I thought there might be discussion, especially about ordinances, and the fact that we're amending an ordinance, I thought it's appropriate to get it to a regular session. You can vote on it just like you can in consent. It's just you're going to have to deal with it separately. So I made the decision on this item to make sure that it was on our open session. So I just wanted to let you know that. Town Attorney Dodd is here for any questions. So, Ryland, you were seeking the floor.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2018-11, declaration of nuisance as presented, effective June 12, 2018.
Second.
All right. So I have a motion by Rowe and a second by Jensen. And so, Ryland, did you want to say anything else, or you done?
I caught an email a couple of months ago or a month ago from Mr. Class regarding waivers being granted for Sunday construction, and it had been a very long time since we'd gotten an email. I know they happen off and on, but it had been a while since we'd gotten an email about it, and it just sort of struck me. I went and looked at the portion of the Code of Ordinances that he was taking that action pursuant to, and looked at the way it was constructed in. I felt it appropriate at this point for us to simply define nuisances as the same no matter what day of the week it is. Take away some paperwork, some staff hoops having to be jumped through, things of that nature. And that was my intent for this change that's put in here.
All right. Greg, you wanted the floor.
Yeah, I'll make an amendment to the motion. Do we get a second?
Yeah.
Will you have a second by Rowe?
Or Jensen.
Or Jensen? Oh, okay.
That we do the 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on or during weekdays of Monday through Friday between the hours of, and for Saturdays between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. There are different sections in there that have to be changed, but I think that's the premise of my amendment. In other words, Monday through Friday, Saturdays from 9 to 5, no Sundays.
All right, and so you're pointing out several pages,
Yes,
four
rather
different
than
sections, is that
rather
right?
than read the whole thing. Just
So, and we already allow Saturdays.
Yes, I just changed.
What you're doing is
I just took
changing
it
the
from-
hours for
Took it
Saturdays.
from 7 to 9.
And where the
Sleep in
original
on it.
motion was including Sunday, this is eliminating Sunday. Is that, do I
Well,
understand
we're
that
not
correctly?
eliminating because we don't have it right now on Sundays. I mean, if we need a waiver, town manager can do it if somebody has a Sunday construction. But to
Or-
have somebody, I mean, Sunday's a peaceful day, rest and quiet.
You have a
know.
motion on the floor, no second.
I'm trying to get there. Yeah, we did get a second
No, you didn't.
You have a motion and a second on the original.
on the amendment.
He has a motion to amend it, no second.
He's made an amendment to the motion, but he's not received a second yet.
I was told you seconded.
Greg has made an amendment to the
You
motion.
made the amendment, and there's no second.
Okay. So,
The original motion to approve as presented has a second.
so when I asked for a second for the amendment, and I said Rowe
Well, you were
seconded,
asking for this, but I didn't.
but you said something, so I heard you.
Lamont had said, did you get a second? Rowe confirmed he got a second on his motion.
Correct.
But you were talking about the
The main
main
motion.
motion.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the main motion had a second before I make an amendment.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I misunderstood that because I had moved on. Okay. All right.
Nick's just 3 steps ahead of the rest of us, guy. If we could all just keep up with Nick.
You had a motion and a second. I'm moving to the amendments. Because you had a motion, I needed to see if there's a second. All right, I'm just going to go back for procedural purposes and say we have a motion on the floor that was handed out to you. Do I have a second? I'll second it for discussion. All right? The the amendment's before you. So Greg, do you want to say anything else?
Well, just to reiterate, Saturdays, rather than have people doing construction early in the morning, give a couple of hours extra rest. And Sundays is, people want to just kick back, watch a football game, have a barbecue. They don't want really somebody building a roof next door to them on a Sunday, or a landscaper's coming along and blocking their streets. I just think it's inappropriate.
All right. Tim, you have the floor.
Yeah, I have a little bit of building experience. I have never had a town tell me that I couldn't build on a Sunday. Have you run into that in other towns? Are there a lot of them that do that, Tommy?
I've never.
Okay, yeah, well, I mean, in several states we built in and stuff like, I've never seen it before. I would be shocked if my contractors, same thing. I mean, a lot of times, thinking from a commercial standpoint, we're under deadlines, right? So we have to get something done on time, so our teams will come in and work on Saturday night, Sunday, a lot of times in the commercial areas. I understand we're talking about, homes and stuff also, but I just can't, I was shocked. I knew this happened once before, and I didn't really jump on it before, but I was shocked that we don't allow people to work on Sundays. I'd be all for switching it, so.
All right, Philip.
Yeah, I actually like the hours on the Saturday, and I certainly would like that on Sunday. That's the exact same thing that Flower Mound has. But I will say this, I'm not against somebody working on Sunday. I think that we have made it a point as a council to be user-friendly. We've talked about that in ordinances, we've talked about that in permitting, and a lot of these, we have very limited commercials, so you're not gonna have, obviously you're gonna have PD 30 that's gonna be booming for the next couple of years, but most of the things that happen in town are remodels. And so if a person is doing a remodel on their own as a homeowner, and they are trying to accomplish that on weekends, and then we come in and say, well, you can't do that on Sunday, you've limited him. And so we're not very friendly if we're doing that. I had a house just down the street from me that painted the entire outside of the house on Sunday, using contractors. Nobody stopped them, nobody was bothered. And so I think that while I would love to limit the hours, maybe 9 to 5, I certainly support the motion, the original motion, not the amendment, but the original motion to allow people to work on Sunday. I think I checked South Lake, checked Roanoke, they all allow it. I do have one question. If and this is probably for the chief of police, not the fire, but if somebody is going really nuts with would our noise ordinance apply in a situation like that? I'm not sure if our noise ordinance would cover, say 7 a.m. they start.
Noise goes 7 to 10.
Is it-
Sorry, I'm not the chief of police.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Nor would I be. I mean, Chief Ferrata would do a much better job.
Yeah, so it wouldn't apply. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. So we do have an amendment on the floor. We'll call for the vote on the amendment to begin with. All those in favor of the amendment as presented in the handout, please show your hands. Greg is the only one. All opposed, same sign. Everyone else is opposed. It does fail. We are back to the main motion that is not amended, and that is basically allowing for construction to happen on Sunday. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Alicia, you wanted to talk, excuse me.
So for the Sunday, we're not determining a time?
It would be the same as all the others.
Not at this time.
Don't look
No
at, don't
time
look
has
at
been
this.
changed.
Look at the
Okay.
packet. Yeah, this was Greg's.
Like Philip, oh, well, can I say?
It's fine.
It's okay to
Philip's fine.
discuss.
Or Phil.
Oh, geez.
I liked his idea of limiting the hours from 9 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday, so could I do an amendment to that?
You can if you choose to do so.
Okay, I'll amend that Monday through Friday between 9 and 5, and, I'm sorry, Monday and Friday, either 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion by Fleury and a second by Schaffner. Any discussion about the amendment?
Yep.
There.
Sorry, Eric? Oh, wait, yep, Eric?
What y'all thinking? We're not gonna tell landscape people that they can't work before 9 a.m. on a Saturday. If you vote to approve this, you are insane.
All right,
Maybe we're just sleepy.
Philip?
Well, there's quite a few cities that are insane because there's quite a
That
few
is true.
cities that have 9 to 5, which is not unreasonable.
So
It-
hot, you
it-
gotta work early.
It's not unreasonable to require that. Other cities have done it, and it certainly, I support it, Alicia.
Ryland?
Do you guys actually intend for this, when you make this motion, do you really intend for that to apply to landscape work before 9 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays? Is that your intent?
You really think that they're going to enforce that?
That's not the question. The question is that your intent?
I thought she said Sunday only now.
Saturday and Sundays.
Saturday and Sunday.
Is that the intent?
It says, I don't think landscaping is demolition, alteration, heavy
Alteration.
equipment, machinery.
It is.
So you
Landscaping.
can't mow your own yard before 9 a.m. on
Excuse
Saturday
me,
or Sunday.
point of order. Alicia has the floor.
Okay, excluding landscaping. I mean, like Philip was saying, I have to deal with industry standard at work, so that's kind of how I see this. If that's what other towns do, that's what works for them. We don't even have Sunday as it is now, so now we're adding Sunday. So limiting the hours, I don't think is.
Oh, okay, well, so to answer my question, you guys technically weren't including landscaping.
No,
in
I
the
don't.
scope of that, even
I
though.
don't consider landscaping demolition.
Correct, even though that was used as an
heavy
example. Okay.
equipment. A lawnmower's not heavy equipment.
All right,
So sorry, I
just
still have the
second.
floor. My intention in bringing this was to make this, one, easier to enforce, two, to provide for simple aspects of liberty for people to contract or to do work on their own private property or contract to do so with others. I believe it would be going in the wrong direction to have different hours for different days. And beyond that, I do think this leads us in a different direction of people starting to ask us for definitions of nuisances in different hours of the day, on different days of the week, and it's way too granular and difficult to enforce. So I understand where y'all are headed, but it's, my intent is to make this an easier place to work, an easier place to live, and enjoy and maintain your own property. And there's ways to make sure you stay asleep longer.
All right. Tim, was it you to speak?
Yeah, I would say, to paraphrase what Philip said, or Phil said just a few minutes ago, that we wanted to be more business-friendly. And again, having a little bit of experience in this, the tradesmen want to get out and work as early as possible and then get home to their families. They don't want to have to sit around on Saturday morning. These guys are used to getting up at 5 o'clock every day, and they're waiting. Anytime you're at a job site, they're waiting until that moment that it's 7 o'clock so they can get started. And I would think for ease of use, the hours should be the same. That being said, I happen to have a house on the golf course, 11th tee, and every Saturday and Sunday morning at 7 o'clock sharp, that giant lawnmower is out there, that guy's cutting that grass. You want to talk about heavy machinery? Nobody's out there saying a word to him. I've been there 4 years, not one time have they stopped him. Not saying you should, but I'm saying it happens every time. 11 tee off on Saturday, Sunday morning, 7 o'clock. Took me a little while to get used to it, but knowing a bunch of tradesmen, they get their jobs done. They don't get paid 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. They get paid to get a job done, and they're trying to get it done for either the homeowner or the commercial businessman. So I would err on the side of making it as easy as possible for the staff, knowing that the hours are the same, to enforce, and make it easy for the businessmen. So that's my opinion.
All right, Greg?
I guess my question is, what caused this to become an issue? I mean, the town's been here, 30-some-odd years, and I don't know exactly how long that ordinance has been in effect with no Sundays. What just made everybody change? I've never had any complaints about it.
It was all me. I saw staff have to handle something that in principle I disagree with, and it's my attempt to change it. Lemonade stands used to be illegal here, as we're all aware. That also was not well enforced, but one day it was very foolishly enforced, and we changed it. This is something that just doesn't flat out make sense from a principle standpoint, that you're going to, forgetting all the amendments that have been proposed tonight, if you just look at what I brought to council, we have one rule for Monday through Saturday and nothing on Sunday. There's no logic that supports that. So that was my intention, was just to make it simpler and easier for everybody to operate around.
All right, have anybody else that wishes to speak on this matter? All right, hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
The amendment.
The amendment failed.
No.
We haven't voted yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, the first amendment didn't get a second.
Alicia's amendment's on the
Yeah.
floor.
So Alicia's amendment, which was to limit the time on Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., is that right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any discussion on just the amendment? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor of that, show your hands. All right, have 4. All opposed? Have 3 opposed. So,
So I
think
will be
10
calling the town Saturday morning to go after Trophy Club Country Club, so they will stop
so
cutting their grass.
Kurtz, Rowe, and Jensen, I believe, voted against. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And the rest voted for. All right. So the amendment passes. We are back to the motion as amended. Any questions about that? Oh, Rylan, you want to talk?
Once the main motion's back on the floor, I'll
It is
talk.
back.
If we pass the motion as amended, we're going to make it illegal. I came here to try and make things simpler and to promote liberty and freedom, which people pretend they care about until they're inconvenienced. You guys are, if we vote to pass what we have on the floor now, you're going to make it illegal for a homeowner to cut his limb off his own tree with his own chainsaw at 10 till 9 on a Saturday morning. And if you guys do that, you are foolish. Eric, you were right. I thought you were being harsh earlier, but nope, you were right.
All right. Anybody else wish to speak?
Yeah, if you want to say chainsaw, it's already illegal after 7 p.m. And I guarantee you that happens already. So,
Okay, but I'm trying to incrementally make the ordinance better.
yeah, well,
Okay,
you have.
excuse
but-
me.
We've taken a turn for the worse.
Excuse me, Eric, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Motion to amend Saturday's time as originally 7 a.m. to, is it 6 p.m.? Help me out here, people.
I think so, yeah.
Yes, in item number 6, it states between the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m., and we struck the language on the days of the week.
Motion to amend Saturday then to 7 to 6.
Keep it where it was.
All right, do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion to amend by Jensen, seconded by Schaffner. Any discussion about this, Ryland?
No, good idea by Eric. I want to discuss the main motion again, sorry. It's a good idea to make it a little more reasonable, but
Eric, you want this amendment?
Yes, sir. So what my attempt to do is get Monday through Saturday as was, and then what we're in effect doing, if everything passes, is adding Sunday. And I get it, we'll give them a little extra 2 hours on Sunday. I'm fine with that. I don't agree with holding people off till 9 o'clock on Saturday, though. Most people want to get up early and work on Saturday. That's just kind of what they do. So I would, that's all I got.
Philip?
Yeah, and I'll support that because that, if you want to say how Greg said it, that's been in effect for 30-something years. And so I agree with that, and I think it gives a reasonable time on Sunday to do work, so it's
Ryland?
already happening anyways.
I just want everyone here to ask themselves, deeply ask themselves, what is your personal limit to which you're willing to impose on other people? I mean, really? I mean, when will you stop? What's too far? What's too much? Got a lot of people that just want to sleep late. Hey, nobody wants to sleep late more than me, but childishness. It's childishness. Absolute childishness.
So we're taking a day that hasn't been allowed for 30 years.
But it has been
We're
allowed.
adding
Wait,
and
wait,
we're
wait,
adding a
wait.
day.
I understand, Alicia, it has been allowed. What I
Excuse
did.
me, point of order. Alicia, you needed to put your name in the queue to be recognized. Ryland still had the floor until I finished that. So Alicia, if you want to put your name in, I'll call you in just a second. All right? So Ryland, you have the floor.
Yeah, it's important to understand that what I tried to bring here was something that actually more reflected reality, more reflected what was actually the conditions on the ground. I mean, if you guys think that every single ordinance like this, which is purely fluff, gets enforced 100% of the time and cited 100% of the time, you're wrong. That's simply not realistic. So my intention was to clean things up and to make it easier on our staff to not have to deal with conflicts and discretionary enforcement. But, you know, if we want to be popular with somebody down the street who wants to sleep late on Sunday, you know, that's your call. I'm just explaining where my line is on what I'm willing to impose on people's personal activities and the things that they either do themselves or ask others to do on their private property. And supposedly somewhere there are people that agree with me, although I don't even know where they are anymore.
All right, Greg?
We all have a right to our opinion. We all have different opinions. That doesn't make us insane or whatever other nasty things you guys just said. It's what makes the world go round.
That it? All right. So, Philip?
So basically, we have still left in the ability for somebody to get a permit from the town manager if they want to start early, correct, David?
I didn't intend to take that out.
Right. So,
About paragraph B.
right, so if there is something that is, like Tim's saying, it's very pressing, that has to be done, they can still get authority from the town manager to start 2 hours earlier on a Sunday, which right now, they have no ability to do.
No, they do.
Not on a Sunday. They don't have ability to work without a permit.
On a Sunday, they can.
Not now.
Yes, they
Okay,
can.
all right.
Tom approved it.
I'm saying they
Without
don't
the
have the ability to just work.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. So,
Motion to.
we had a amendment offered by Jensen, seconded by Schaffner, to make the Saturday time 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Is that right, Eric?
Yes, sir.
That's the matter before us at this point, is an amendment. All those in favor of approving the amendment, please show your hands. All opposed, same sign. It does pass. Lamont was against. So we are now back to the motion as amended. So the motion as amended does extend to allow Sunday to be included in this from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Is that correct, everybody?
It's
are the
Monday through
original
Monday
hours,
through
yeah.
Saturday, 7 to 6,
And Sunday, 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
Is that clear? All right. All those in favor of the motion as amended, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. Sanders and Lamont are against the motion. It does pass as amended. All right. Item number 12, consider and take appropriate action regarding an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Animal Control, within the Town Code of Ordinances such that registration of household pets is no longer required and providing an effective date. So the chair is going to recognize, well, I was going to till Eric put his name in first. Eric, I'll recognize you, and then I'm going to go
Who
to
are you going to
Philip.
recognize?
Philip?
Well, his name ain't on here.
I know, but
I have a PowerPoint.
I was headed that direction
Oh, well,
before
I
you
was-
did that.
Oh, look.
Oh, you got a daughter up there. My gosh. Okay, so I found one item that needs to be struck in here. I mean, if the idea is to get rid of the license requirements, section 2.01.019 licenses and tags. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the big O agenda. If you just look at,
It's
it's
page
page
51.
8 of the ordinance. You got the big, okay.
151 is the page.
Yeah, bottom of the page.
Failure. Item C, failure to obtain a license tag. A person commits an offense without regard to his mental state if he owns an animal without a current licensing tag. So that one should be scratched off as well. That's the only thing I needed to bring up.
Is it referring to
It may
the
refer to the
rabies?
rabies tag, so it might be, instead of licensing tag, current rabies tag.
But that's listed in 2, a tag evidencing compliance with the requirements of state law regulating rabies vaccination, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Paragraph A.
I mean, it's, you're basically saying in
Yeah,
A that you have to have it, and then you're reiterating. I don't know.
So that's, okay.
We'll take out C.
Yeah, I mean,
Point well taken.
thinking.
All right.
Understood.
Thanks, Eric. Alicia?
Has this been run through the shelter board?
Yes,
It has?
but back in 2014, but the shelter board does not have authority on this matter.
I'm not sure this is under the authority of the shelter board.
All right. So any other comments, anybody? Questions?
Well, it may not be their authority, but I think that maybe they should have reviewed it since 2014.
All right, so Chair recognizes Philip Schaffner.
All right, and this may explain some of this, Alicia.
Thank you.
You know, I've always been somebody who, I've always wished that when we get an agenda item, it had history. It had the history. Here's how we got here. The last agenda item, Greg is correct, it's been on the books since, like most of our ordinances, since '85. And so this particular animal control ordinance started in 1985 with ordinance 8516. It was the 7th meeting, and they put a animal control ordinance. You fast forward to, I don't know if this is going to work. Do I just hit next? I'm hitting it.
Part of the 10%.
Here you go.
There
It
it
went.
goes.
Just a
So the requirement for the animal registration happened about 6 years later on May 21st, 91. And what they did, and you'll notice that they had the license tag shall be valid for a period of 1 year. So it was an annual registration. Then the annual fee stayed on the books for about 15 years. Went on July 24, 2006, it was changed to a one-time licensing fee. In fact, I think Greg and Nick were on that council that changed it. Well, there's Nick's signature right there. They were on the council that changed that to just a one-time licensing fee for each animal. So what I then looked at, because I wanted to know the history, how we got there, how often, the annual fee, and then when it came to just a one-time licensing fee. And then I wanted to see, well, what was, could I find anything in the code of ordinance that showed the fee schedule? And I found 2 or 3 instances. One was in 2005-10, where it listed it as $5. The next one was 2008-37, again, registration $5. And the last one that I could find was 2009, and again, registration $5. So I knew it was in there, and I knew that we had it. It was interesting when this particular item came about, and you'll see Councilmember Jensen asked why the town was proposing to add a $5 licensing fee for dogs and cats. This happened on April 24th, just a couple weeks ago, and it didn't dawn on me at the time when he asked this that they were adding it back. And so town manager said that, we've been charging the fee, but it's not officially been included in the town's fee schedule. So that happened a few weeks ago. If you go back to 2013, and I'm sorry, go forward. If you go back to 2013, just right before I got on council, the chief of police came to the council, and he wanted to go back to the annual fee. And so the council debated it, went back and forth. Greg was on that council. I remember Danny Mayer, that was his moment when he said, I don't even have I've got a dog and it's not licensed, said that right, in front of everybody. But he wanted to go to a annual fee, and as you can see, the vote was taken. Connie abstained for some reason, not sure why, but the motion failed by a vote of 0-6. So then, the first night that I'm on council, just got elected, sworn in by Judge Chambers, we're on about the 4th agenda item after my swearing in, and this comes up. Danny Mayer, at that time, felt emboldened because of the denial a few weeks earlier, and so he put on the agenda this item to just totally remove it, like we're doing tonight. And so there's when they referred it, Rose and then Mayor seconded to refer it to the Animal Shelter Board. It eventually got to the Animal Shelter Board. They really didn't do anything. That was in 2014. Most of us had then gotten on council, and it just wasn't a priority like it was at that point, because we were all new and really didn't bring it up. Here's where it gets interesting. This amendment, or this change to the ordinance, was basically tabled. It was referred to the Animal Shelter Board. Well, if you go here, you'll see that Connie and the town secretary and the town attorney signed the ordinance into law. They weren't supposed to. And so it got passed and approved by the town council of the town of Trophy Club and placed into our ordinances. Why it did, who made the mistake, I have no idea. But if you look at Laserfish, you'll see 2013-25, the failed ordinance. And then you'll see 2013-42, the ordinance that did not pass that night, did not fail, did not pass, was tabled, but it was placed into our ordinances. And then if you go to our actual town ordinances in Franklin, right here today, it will reference ordinance 2013-42, section 202, adopted 11/18/13, never adopted. So, I wanted to bring, I was shocked when I found this. Not so much shocked that it happened, shocked that I hadn't caught it, I guess, but we would eventually find out that several of these happened when we were on council, and that we caught and corrected or corrected before it got placed into our ordinances. This was early on, my first meeting, and so I wanted to bring this up because I think it explains it. Well, one, we're going to have to correct it. That's just a given. We're going to have to correct this mistake that was made. But I wanted to bring this up because I think it explains why we have made the changes that we've made. I get asked quite often, well, why, you've had so much turnover. In fact, there was an open records the other day from a citizen that wanted to list all the changes. How many people have you gone through since, in the last 3 years, 4 years, obviously talking about this council? And I think that this is an example of what Nick said in his State of the Town address, that we're trying to build a great management team. We're trying to build a great staff. And I think Tom has really captured our vision, and he is really executing different things, putting a staff together that's incredible. And I think that's why we up here just preach all the time, merit, merit, merit. We want to reward the person that goes the extra mile, the person that just doesn't phone it in and say, sign this, and it's an ordinance, and it was never passed by council. Obviously, it just, they just did what they wanted to do. So I hope that staff, and it's most everybody in here is staff, I hope you realize that we just want the best individual. We want the best person, the best team. And we want to work with you. We want to support you. We want to help you because we've seen bad. We've seen the bottom of the barrel, and I think that we see light at the end of the tunnel. That we're building a great police department, a great fire department, great finance, great Parks and Rec. And Holly, I could go on all day about Holly, but I just want you to know that, this is one of the reasons. And so I'm going back to what we're talking about tonight. I'm all for getting rid of, actually what was passed that night or wasn't passed, is what we're going to do anyway. We'll have to correct it, but there's no need for duplicate. I mean, you're already required in our ordinance to have a rabies tag and owner identification, or we're going to put it in. It's actually in, but it's not in. We're going to put it in. But there's that requirement there. And I think it takes, I've asked for different records over the past 5-6 years, and it just continues to drop on how many actually register their animal. And so it's just a duplication of what's already out there. My cat has a microchip in it, an RFID tag. They scan it, get a number, they call somebody, and boom, my wife will get a call because her name's on the record. But if the cat got out, or the collar with the identification of the rabies and things like that. So I think it's a good step. I think it probably worked in a very small town way back, but I think that things have improved where there is identification now where the animal can be found. And, the reality is most people just aren't doing it. They aren't registering their dog. They aren't registering their cat. And so I think it's good to clean all of this up.
Alicia?
Okay, so thank you for the history of all that, but what we're not talking about is why registration's important in the first place, which I believe right now the officers do have a list in their vehicle, so if they do pick one up and it is registered, they can just bring it home, or no, is that not true? Okay. Because not all pets are chipped, so it's harder to find them, and scanners are $400 for a scanner. So does this not help mitigate the return of the animal to the owner without having to bring it through animal control and take care of it, or whatever the process is? Is this not just another step that helps that process if your animal's not chipped? And people aren't doing it because they don't know about it. Now that we have a new communications person, maybe people can know about it, because, I mean, if you don't know about it, no one's going to do it, right? I didn't know that we had to do this until it came up in council a few meetings ago. Is it the fee that we're concerned about, or the duplication of fees? And are the new proposals going in with the identification tags, is that going to kind of replace this portion of it?
So we have a question.
Or,
We've already eliminated the requirement. This is just eliminating the fee. The requirement's
So-
already been eliminated.
okay.
No, opposite.
Vice versa.
Right?
Vice versa.
Vice versa.
We've eliminated the fee. What was it?
All right. Alicia, you finished?
I just wish we could hear from the shelter board, but I guess that's not.
All right, Eric?
So, to me, animals are like your children, and, it's like you telling me what I have to do with my children is I have to go and get it registered. I don't think that's the proper way of doing it. I think people take care of their animals. They get them spayed, neutered, they get them their shots. You can't take it to a boarding place without a shot record, just like you can't take your child to school without shot records. So I don't see where the issue is of having a $5. I don't see what the issue is, why we need to register our animals. I have 3, they're not registered. They stay in my house. But what's the big, I don't know what the problem is. Why do I don't know what the need for it is. Looking at the data, I think we have 30 animals right now registered in town. At the highest ever been was maybe over 150. That was probably it. And I'm sure there's a lot of animals in this town. So that's it.
So a couple of points. I have 2 questions and a comment based on Eric's comment. I believe, Eric, there were people that registered long ago that it was a one-time registration. So the number's much higher, but annually we don't get very many. Isn't that what we discovered when we looked at the whole list?
Correct.
All right, so there was this one-time registration that still lives in theory, assuming those dogs are still alive and that kind of thing. But, so the second thing is questions. David, ordinance 2018-12, which has been proposed, has a repealer clause and the ability for things to survive if they weren't repealed. So the question becomes, if we approve 2018-12, does it take care of the fact that we had a signed ordinance that really was never passed?
It will, to the extent that it addresses all the issues that were in that ordinance that was signed and not passed. One other thing I
I spoke to the codifier today and I asked, do we need to take action through an ordinance to clean this up? She stated, no, if you will send communication, such as proof of the minutes that this was not approved, they will clean up the items. What they call the history notes, they'll clean that up, as well as the table of contents, because they reference every ordinance that we have passed, and they note, did this change the code of ordinances? So that will be reflected as a change as well.
Okay, that's,
we will need to double check that every item in that ordinance has been changed or addressed if we want it to be. It'll just go away.
all right, just as a point of clarifications, since I've made several mistakes tonight, my notes show that we don't have a motion on the floor.
Not yet.
All right, we're just discussing it this
All right, just want to make sure. Eric hadn't told me that I was wrong yet, so, okay.
Well, it's up
All
to
right,
you. If
Riley.
you want to let us talk before a motion, it's your call. You're the coach. Quick question. Do you guys know, for staff, do you guys happen to know what the total number of registrations, valid registrations we have on file right now is, roughly? Well, I mean, I don't expect you to know if someone's dog has gone on to the next plane, but, just an order of magnitude. I know because,
Yeah, Phillips asked that question, and in our computer system, we have the old log before the new AUCO came in and put it in the computer system. So we're up to over almost 1,850.
okay,
But that's going back to 2001, so I'm sure a lot of those animals.
some of the one-time.
And it's
ones
all
and
one-time
everything.
stuff, so,
Sure.
But we're average, I think Philip has the numbers, we averaged about 100 a year,
Okay,
so. And I
Thanks.
think we're almost up to 50 for this year.
Alicia?
I'm sorry, I do have,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a couple
Rylan?
more things. Sorry, let me just do a little. So where are we at in terms of rooftops and Trophy Club? 4,000?
No, almost 5.
44, 46. I knew Tommy would know.
Not roughly, it's 44, 46.
So,
44.
so I like numbers, and I know I like to make decisions based on data. According to the American Veterinary Medicine Association in 2012, which is their most recent data on this, 1.6 dogs per household was the average in America. That doesn't speak for potential variations in Trophy Club if we love dogs more or not, but if you have 4,400 households and an average of 1.6 dogs, that's 7,040 dogs. If you use Chief Arata's 1,800 number, that means about 1 in 4 are currently registered. So basically what we're saying is that potentially 75% of our pet owners are subject to, or 75% of our pets, fewer pet owners, may cause their owner to be subject to what amounts to a Class C misdemeanor. We're talking about a Class C misdemeanor, guys. We're not talking about an administrative fee. It doesn't make sense to me. We don't have a rampant issue with dogs running wild on the street like the Olympics in Russia a couple years ago, whatever that crazy story was, if y'all remember that. Generally, I think what Eric said earlier kind of holds true. A person who cares enough to even realize, because Alicia made the point she didn't even know, to realize that this is required or go through the process, they're going to have all those other things. Those other precautions are all going to be already taken. I don't see a need to add an additional administrative layer at this point at the municipal level. So anyway, I just wanted to share those numbers with you guys. Thanks, Chief.
All right, Alicia?
I was just speaking to that, would it be easier for recovery and less time, money, and resources, and not to have people get Class C misdemeanors? That was not my intention when talking about this. And Fort Worth has it, right? And we're saying it's a small town ordinance. Well, it's a large town ordinance, but no, I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, people should have the right to do what they want with their pets. I'm just talking about those pets that get out that are numerous daily. I mean, we see them every day, and not everybody has a chip, and it's really hard for the volunteers to return them. And how much easier would it be if you're out and you see one and they're registered, oh, that belongs on 123 Park Lane, let's go drop it off. That was my only point.
Is that? Or just a second. All right, so I was next in the queue. Were you finished, Alicia?
Yes.
All right. So there are a couple of things that I would bring to your attention, or one thing that I'd bring to your attention. The state law states, in my paraphrase, that we can't provide name and address of people to citizens. So if, in fact, we had a person, we can't tell somebody else that we have that dog that belongs to that person, even though we maybe have been doing that. You can release it to an agency, but not to a person. So it is kind of interesting that that's the case. Now that I have the floor, I will move the adoption of 2018-12.
Second.
All right?
With the change.
Change on C that Eric brought up.
With the change of section 2.019, I think, was that it?
Yes.
2.01019C.
Okay, C, okay.
Eliminating
I agree.
Eliminate where it says, I think, license tags.
failure to obtain license tag.
Yeah, okay. All right, so, and the second agrees?
Yes, sir.
All right, so the matter is before us, so I'm going to go down the list. Greg, do you want to go ahead and speak about the matter?
Yes, trying to say this with a straight face. What about the pigs? I mean, should we keep that registered? I mean,
I thought we were taking them all out, right?
That was removed last meeting as well.
That was removed.
yeah, but can we just maybe revisit that? I mean, what do pigs do? I mean, who keeps pigs in our town?
You can only have 2.
I don't
Okay,
know.
Greg, are you finished?
Well, okay.
Oh, he's finished.
All right, Tim,
I'm finished. Can't talk.
you're not going to go past that.
No, you answered my question for me, actually, so.
Okay. So anybody else wish the floor? All right,
Well, I just want to,
but you're not recognized.
sorry.
You need to press the button.
Okay.
I love the
Philip, you have the
Can't I
floor.
just grab your arm? I just want to build upon what you said. I think it has happened in the past in Trophy Club, because I have minutes, or I have notes back in 2013 where they actually said, it says, there are occasions when a dog is found to be at large and is returned to the owner directly by the citizen who found the dog, or by the citizen calling the police department for identification using the Trophy Club animal registration tag. Well, they can't do that. They just.
Well, the police can't release the name.
I think probably back, and this goes back to what I've been saying, they probably were doing that. They probably, oh, yeah, it's so Ryland Road, go knock on his door.
I wasn't on the list.
They can't do that, and they're very limited on just exactly what they can ask for, even on the form. And so, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. What
Alicia?
I wasn't saying that we give the information out to the public. I was speaking to the officers picking up the animal from either someone who found it, or if they find it themselves, in case it's not chipped, not to take it in and house it and feed it and try to find the owner. I just thought it was one step to make it easier. So I wasn't talking about disseminating information to the public.
Greg?
We actually had an incident one time when we found a dog. It had a chip. The chip was registered. We called the agency. The dog was registered to the wife, who was out of town. They would not release it to the husband. So that goes to your point. It's kind of, anyway,
Philip?
just a little.
Yeah, I just
Greg, were you through? I'm sorry.
Just to say something to you, Alicia, I don't disagree that as many avenues as you possibly can have is good. But if the dog is not chipped and the dog does not have a tag, the dog's probably not going to be registered either. I mean, if the owner doesn't care, and this goes, back to what Ryland and Eric are saying, that if the owner doesn't care to do those things, they probably aren't going to register the dog
Alicia?
Or the pig.
or the pig.
I think a lot of it too is awareness, not knowing that it's supposed to be registered. And I don't think it's people don't care. I think people get caught up and they don't get their dog chipped, or the collar comes off. My dog's gotten out. I mean, they're chipped, but or you just get the dog and it takes a few months to get it chipped. And it's really not so much if the owners don't choose to do that. I'm trying to help our officers have an easier time with this, because I see it every day. That's all. I'm out there in the community, and I see this happening, and I'm just seeing if this would make it easier for them. That was my only point.
All right. Anybody else wish to speak?
Anything else?
Does the chief have any recommendations?
No, sir. Other than, we'll do everything we can to return an animal when it's recovered. The majority of them aren't registered when we pick them up, so, but like I said, we work great with the people in town, Susan and her organization.
But
So-
if they, can I talk to him? But if they were registered, would it be helpful for you to have a list and you pick it up, you look it up and you go?
If they had their collar on them when we found them, like you said, if they're getting out, so, everything helps, so.
Eric?
It's just one point. First thing I do when I buy an animal, we go get a tag made, and we put cell phone number on it, your name. It's what people do. So that's how the majority of animals get back home, is they've got tags. We're not, it's all, dogs are still safe.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 2018-12, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. Everybody votes for, except Alicia. It does carry. Item 13, receive an update and provide direction to town staff regarding the upcoming July 4th celebration. Town manager Class.
It's going to be a tough act to follow. Philip, I could have used you a couple of years ago. That's pretty good investigative work. I'd like to take just a couple minutes to go through this year's 4th of July celebration for council. As you all know from the past, the celebration for 4th of July here consists of 4 activities: our flag planting, the Patriot 5K and Fun Run, the Parade of Patriots, and then lastly, the actual celebration and the fireworks display. Once again, the celebration this year is going to start with the traditional flag planting, and I've been told that we have now 36,000 flags to be planted here in town. We're working very closely with the Stars and Stripes Committee, which is taking the lead on that, and we're very appreciative of them for that. The 36,000 flags will be placed in all the major thoroughfares and in many of our neighborhoods this year. And we're encouraging the block captains for the first time to come by Town Hall after June 28th, where we'll have the flags here, and we'll actually be passing them out to the block captains here at Town Hall. The morning of the 4th, our festivities begin with the Patriot 5K run as they have in the past. Registration for the event will be available online on our website for $20. On-site registration the day of the event will be $25. As in the past, the 5K run will start at Byron Nelson High School. We'll go out to the Freedom Dog Park and then back to the school. The fun run will go from Byron Nelson High School to the Highlands Drive and back. That's about a 1.5 mile course. And then Barra Church will be with us at the venue, and they'll be providing breakfast for all of us and bottled water. Next will be the Parade of Patriots parade. It'll begin at 9:30 a.m. It has in the past. And again, Stars and Stripes has taken the lead on that event, and they've done a great job with all the logistics thus far and have also secured vehicles for the parade and for council. And I understand this year y'all will be in Mercedes.
Ooh. That's a first.
Yeah.
For me. No.
Staff and the volunteers will also distribute beads and flags prior to the parade, and my understanding is, as of right now, we have 29 entries for the parade, and we'll be using the traditional route as we have in the past, Byron Nelson High School to Bobcat, to Trophy Club Drive, to Durango, and then back to the school via Parkview. All right, and then lastly, the celebration day, evening, and the fireworks. It'll begin at 6 p.m. and run till 10 p.m. As in years past, the celebration will feature the Limelight Band. Will also include face painters, balloon artists, a strolling magician, jugglers, a bounce house, and backyard games. We'll also have the complimentary wristbands for our Trophy Club kids, and also there will be wristbands available for non-residents the day of the event. And parents of Trophy Club children can come by the pool from June 16th on to pick up the complimentary wristbands. And the fireworks show will start at about 9:40 p.m. I want to talk a little bit about last year's show. As you know, traditionally, we've had the fireworks here in town since 2008. And then in 2013, we partnered with the Northwest Independent School District to use the Byron Nelson High property for our launch site. This allowed for the launch of up to 6-inch shells at a height of 600 feet to stay within the International Fire Code limits for the debris fallout over natural turf. In 2017, NISD transitioned, as you can see here in the slide, they transitioned to artificial turf fields at Byron Nelson High School. There's actually three football fields now and one baseball field that is artificial turf. And so this year we're going to have to transition our launch site away from that launch site that we've used since 2008 to protect those artificial turf fields. And so Byron Nelson High School faculty and also NISD, they remain a very trusted partner for us. They have been instrumental in helping us to find another search site, been very accommodating, and without their continued support, we would not be able to hold our event. So we're very pleased with that relationship. After conducting an extensive search of all of Trophy Club to try to find a launch site that would be acceptable, and also a launch site that would allow us to launch in the manner that we have in the past, that 600 foot. We were not able to find any location that would fit the bill for that high of a ordinance. But we did find a very good alternative site adjacent the venue that we always use. And so the site this year of the launch will be at Veterans Park parking lot just across the street from Independence Park East. So the change of the launch site is going to impact several issues associated with the celebration and the fireworks show, and I just want to walk through that with you just a little bit. First, to ensure compliance with the International Fire Code, the pyrotechnic company had to limit had to provide a limit of 420 feet to 210 feet diameter for the debris fallout cone. In other words, we had to shrink it down from 420 feet in diameter to 210. So you can see from the slide that I have there, the original site at the top, that's that 420-foot cone that we have to have for the debris fallout. And as you can see from that, that falls right on those artificial turf fields that we previously used. Down a little bit lower and to the left on the slide, you'll see the new launch site and the new 210-foot cone that will keep us in compliance with the International Fire Code. So we've taken steps with the pyrotechnic company to enhance our show this year by using additional ground effects, which will provide a similar experience as we have in the past for viewing from the Independence East venue site. And as you can see from the map, again, we've changed from Byron Nelson to that Independence West site.
What's the height?
The height will be up to 3-inch shells, so 300 feet, as opposed to
So half.
6-inch shells. Yes, half. Secondly, to accommodate this change in the launch site, parking from last year's event has been altered slightly. Again, NISD's been gracious with us to allow us to now park, as you can see in the top of the screen, at the Byron Nelson High School, so we'll be able to use that parking lot, which is, again, very kind of them. In addition to that, you can see in the blue on the slide that we will also be using the Latter-day Saints parking lot on the corner of Bobcat and Trophy Club, Medlin Middle School, Independence Park East, the community pool, and also Beck Elementary. We'll also, this year, have shuttle service from the Byron Nelson parking lot to Independence Park East for those residents that would desire that. In an effort to ensure the best viewing experience for all our residents, a demonstration was conducted from the new launch site using the smaller projectiles back in April. We decided that we felt like it was best to do a test run and then to place staff members, and I believe there were some council members out in these various locations that have been traditionally used to view the launch, so that we could actually get a perspective of what this was going to look like in some of those alternative sites. And we did that back in April. And as you can see from the aerial map, what we did was we looked at the traditional sites that have been used in the past by our residents, Trophy Club Country Club, the church at Trophy Lakes, the Lakes part adjacent to Durango Drive, and then Independence Park East adjacent the corner of Bobcat and Parkview. And as a result of the test launch, it was determined that residents and guests at our venue site in Independence Park East will enjoy a similar experience to what they always have. However, those viewing from these remote locations will to some extent or another be impacted. Essentially, what you're going to see from these other locations is that the display is going to be lower, and in some particular places, it's going to be impacted by the fact that you're not going to be able to see the display over tree lines or buildings. So we just want to make you all aware of that and make the residents aware of that as well. Based on the test launch, staff recommends, therefore, that residents and guests join us for the celebration at the Independence Park East site, and that will give them the best viewing point to enjoy our fireworks show. And in an effort to accommodate what we think are going to be larger crowds at Independence Park East, for the first time, we're going to open up Independence Park West Field 3. to be used as a viewing area, along with the traditional areas that we use at Independence Park East and the community pool. So, in conclusion, so what does this mean? It really means that the day of the event remains virtually the same, but the fireworks launch site is changing. The fireworks display will be slightly lower in the sky, and the remote viewing areas potentially are going to be impacted. So with that, these changes, staff's going to take a very proactive approach in communicating this to our residents and our businesses nearby. Our goal is to keep everybody as informed as we can, to facilitate the viewing experience, and to manage everybody's expectations. To that end, our communications team has put together an aggressive communications plan, which includes an updated town 4th of July webpage, an updated Parks and Rec Department webpage, the addition of a 4th of July link to the town's webpage that includes a banner scroll. And then following tonight's council briefing, we will be updating our website with specialized event maps, highlight parking and best viewing locations. We'll coordinate closely with the city of Roanoke and nearby residents, Trophy Club Country Club, the Lakes HOA, the Church at Trophy Lake representatives to ensure that they're aware of the changes that we're making this year. And then the week of the event, staff plans to release a 30-second video to highlight activities and adjustment on our website. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Alicia, you have the floor.
Along with flags and beads, could we be supplied candy to throw?
We've actually changed the event this year where candy is allowed, and we're encouraging those on the floats to provide the candy to throw to the children. We're going to be doing the beads.
So bring our own candy.
Yes, bring your own candy.
BYOC.
It's highly encouraged this year.
Philip?
Yeah, I really, I mean, I can't stress enough, we've got to communicate. I did go out that night, Chief Carroll was at the country club, and that's typically where my family goes for the last, I don't know how many years. And it's unbelievable how packed it is. Kids running around with the light things, and it's just a huge event for not only the country club, but I think a lot of people on that side of town that come and put picnics and blankets and everything on the hill. And if you go back to your map, where it was, it's basically over the lake and straight ahead and 600 feet, you got an incredible show. What we saw that night is, or at least from the same spot where I go, it's now to the left, and every now and then over some houses you could see fireworks. If we don't communicate to our residents that go to that spot that it's going to be the worst show that you've ever seen, we are going to have some disgruntled, mad people, because they're so used, they've done it for years and years and years, gone to that spot. And so, I think that we really are going to have to take a hard look at this in the future, whether there's a lot of options around the area to go to, and we're going to take a really hard look at this because we're just becoming so landlocked to try to put on a show where you're only you're cutting in half what you were doing. It may not be a great experience for residents.
Yeah, and if I may, I'd like to just add, this was not a decision that we welcomed.
Right.
And I can assure you, we've been working since October of last year, knowing that we were going to have to find a solution. And it started with working very closely with NISD, with our pyrotechnic company, and with this entire staff. We literally have taken this 420-foot cone, and we have put it in every possible location in this town that we can think to do to see if we could alter this. And for various reasons, just nothing would work. And I want to emphasize this, NISD has been outstanding partner with us on this, and they have tried to work with us. We got to the point that we talked to the pyrotechnic company. They were in agreement that if we could develop some type of a way to protect these fields that would allow their insurance company to indemnify them, that they would consider that. Byron Nelson also tried to work with us on that, but those solutions didn't work either. We looked at putting tarps over these fields, watering these fields, a combination of tarps and water on these fields. The tarps that would be required to tarp all 4 of these fields, about $90,000. That's certainly cost prohibitive for us. It would require water. We tried the water, we tried a foam idea on these fields. Problem is the cleanup with the artificial turf. According to our chief, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, washing these fields off would wash the rubber pellets that are on the artificial turf fields. We would ruin the fields potentially. Ultimately, the last thing that I had to consider was the fact that the pyrotechnic company agreed that they would allow it to happen, their insurance company, if the town would take total and complete responsibility for any damage to these fields. And that was a financial risk that I'm not willing to take on behalf of the town. And so this is where we're at. But I just want to make sure the council knows and our residents know. And again, it's up to us to communicate this to them. Certainly, it's up to me to communicate with the Trophy Club Country Club immediately on this, because they're going to be the ones most impacted. We've done everything that we can possibly think of to mitigate this, and we just haven't come up with an alternative.
All right. Tim, you have the
Yeah,
floor.
first I wanted to thank you for the amount of work that went into trying to save this. I mean, I understand how much time and effort it took. I personally thought it was going to be canceled. I mean, for months, I just thought, you know, it's not going to happen, and you found a way to pull it out. We may need to look at something in the future after, we'll know after this year, right, if it's worth it or not. So I want to say thank you for all that hard work and the team did just to get it off. That being said, we've continually had an issue with, I don't want to call it overcrowding, but so many people there that the lines are so long. And we had discussed last year about either changing the amount or adding, more amenities, more attractions. Did any of that happen this year, or are we at the same thing we did last year because we were so preoccupied with the fireworks?
Yeah, I can ask, I think Tony would probably best answer that. I don't know the comparison with last year to this year with the amenities.
Yeah, we had so much turnover and everything, so I get it. I just wanted to know for
Yes,
some
sir, absolutely. Good evening. Yes, we did add quite a bit more activities, and so that should help alleviate the amount of
Yeah, and one other
the
thing, I would
lines.
make sure to put that in all your communications.
Absolutely.
So that, we've tried to do all these things to make it a better experience, even though we can't have the fireworks as high. So,
Got it all covered,
great.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Rylan?
Yeah, just for the purpose of keeping everybody up to speed on what got us here relative to the fireworks situation, can you refresh everybody's memory on what the monetary value of the damage that was done last year to the turf was? And obviously, we had insurance that covered it, but do you guys remember what the total?
I can't give you the exact amount because it wasn't our insurance company
Right.
that paid for it. That
we don't
was the pyrotechnic company's insurance had to settle with NISD, and I don't know what that settlement was. But from the fallout last year, there was some minor damage to that very newly installed artificial turf field. And so the two, NISD and the pyrotechnic company, have gone back and forth.
But it was in the
litigating.
hundreds
It
of
was
thousands of
huge.
dollars,
It was huge.
what they were saying.
It was originally thought to be that, but I think it ended up being a little bit less than that. It wasn't quite as significant as we had first been led to believe, but by the same token, to NISD's credit, you can't expect them to take on that risk in this year, and the pyrotechnic company darn sure isn't going to take on that risk.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Anybody else have any questions about the 4th of July event? Thank you very much for the information. Item 14, consider and take appropriate action regarding supplemental budget items for fiscal year 2019. Amber, you have the floor.
Good evening, Council. So back in February of this past year, we met with our finance subcommittee, and we were talking about the oncoming budget season, and we received direction from the subcommittee to address them and to address council with the supplemental items that staff had been discussing prior to bringing you the full budget. So that's generally what tonight is. The purpose of this, even though it's under a regular session, is really a workshop to bring to you a list of the supplemental items and receive guidance from you on prioritizing that for the overall budget presentation. And again, just having a dialogue for us and to receive your feedback. And so supplemental items, just very briefly, and what we present to you is just, it's a service level improvement that's new to our budget this year. So the first fund I'm going to cover is the general fund, and just going to present to you several of the items that we're bringing forward. The first one is with administrative services. Their supplemental item is organizational on-site trainings for a recurring expenditure of $2,500, and it also continues in out years. This is to provide town staff with on-site leadership and management training. The next item we have is community events. And this item is to replace the tree in the Trophy Club Drive roundabout by adding a pre-lit Christmas tree. It's a one-time cost. Initially, staff brought forward $10,000 for that replacement, and our finance subcommittee recommended a $15,000 increase, which brings us to $25,000 we're recommending.
That was me.
Next, we move on to the fire department. They have a capital replacement request for the exhaust reclamation system. This is a one-time improvement to their building for $75,000, and it removes the exhaust from the apparatus directly from the exhaust pipe. The next item is also a one-time item, and it replaces, it's extrication tools. It replaces equipment that's 11 years old with new equipment that meets today's standards. Both of these items in fire will be offset by MUD revenues if the MUD funds for those items. Next is information services. On behalf of finance, they're bringing forward a product called OpenGov. It's a recurring increase to cost for our budgeting software of $20,000. And it's a budgeting and financial cloud-based software to enhance efficiencies, automation, and transparency. And I actually have a representative that flew in from California to present that to you in more detail, and that'll come at the very end of my presentation. And finally, police is bringing forward a shift differential. This is a recurring cost, $9,000, and they're looking to increase their pay by 3% for their night shift, and this would be the hours between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Any questions? Excuse me, and the total for that is $149 to the general fund, $149,000.
So there's no shift differential now?
No, sir.
All right, so before you go on, I have three people that want to make comments. Do you want her to go on or make your comment?
If we're just going to take that area, is that what we're going to do, just take it a chunk at a time then?
It's up to you.
I think we should.
Okay.
Do one at a
Just
One fund at a time. Yeah.
You had somebody fly in from California to give us a presentation tonight?
Yes, sir.
On whose dime?
On theirs.
Okay.
They're interested in presenting to you and telling you about the product. And we've talked with their company for quite a few years and have worked with them and on what our needs are. And we feel confident that this might be a really good time to present that to you. So.
Philip?
Yeah, I just so you know, because it wasn't just the finance committee, I'm the one that wanted the tree. Basically, what they've been doing is, and Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you have the Christmas event, if we're lucky enough to have it, usually it rains or something, but you've been lighting a tree, just a tree that's growing.
Cedar
trees, yes.
Yeah. And so my intention on it, they originally just brought what was the original? 10,000. To do a tree somewhere.
To purchase a tree we're going to shift
For Independence.
For Independence Park
Right.
East and the
And
roundabout.
So I suggested that we go ahead and replace the roundabout, because we've been getting complaints over the last couple of years, and move the roundabout tree to Independence. And that way you take care of both. So that was my suggestion.
Ryland?
Okay, so to clarify, it's really not a replacement, it's more an additional to shift the other one over?
Exactly.
Okay, so with respect to that, since it is a physical asset and also the two pieces of fire equipment, are all those programmed in capital replacement?
Yeah, we need to have a big discussion about capital replacement.
I'm sorry, which pieces? The
pieces
tree
that
replacement?
would be appropriate to be capitalized assets, is this coming from something that is programmed in our capital replacement program or no?
In our capital replacement program, we do look at items up to $10,000 and put money back for that. So the answer to that, if it's a replacement, is yes. And then, of course, if we're adding new items, then that money would be put back in the future. But
Only up to $10,000?
that's a general amount of what we look at. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say $10,000. I meant up to 10 years of useful life. I misspoke.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Up to 10 years of useful life is
Yeah.
kind of generally what we look at, but we also examine what it is and if it's machinery and that kind of what the equipment is.
Correct, it's any type of capitalized asset. So are these two, forget the tree for a minute, because that's a new thing that
Okay.
Philip came up with, but these two fire things, are those, I take it because we're looking at it under the general fund right now that they're not, but will they be in the future? Is
Yes.
that the intention?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and they're both replacing existing equipment, or is the reclamation net new?
The reclamation equipment is new and is
Okay.
actually an addition to the building itself. So
Right,
it'll be
we
a
had
system
talked
that'll be
about it, I
replaced.
think,
That's
a
correct.
while back.
The
I just didn't know
extrication
if it was already
tools
there.
are not currently in a replacement program, but we're working on a replacement program for all of our tools and equipment with the fire department.
Yeah.
But both of these are to be paid for out of the MUD budget, right? So out of
yeah.
our 256 budget, be reimbursed to the town at that point.
And just to be
If
clear on the reclamation, it's basically to correct what was put in place. So what they put in
Yeah.
place was
No, I
not,
remember that
was not
conversation.
adequate.
I just
Yeah.
couldn't remember if y'all had already done something there because remember there was a lot of remediation that was done. I just couldn't remember if that was.
Yes, sir, I believe in the past that they tried to add several. Chief Arata, do you remember? They tried to add another unit to the existing units that were brought over
Yeah,
from
that's
the
what
old
I'm
building.
remembering. Okay.
But really,
It didn't do the job.
they did not do the job
Yeah.
either. No, sir.
Okay.
All right, so Amber, just for moving us forward and making sure you get out of this what you're looking for, at this time, I would allow council to make a comment of any item that maybe you strongly support or have questions about, so that we get the information and are able to tell, do we put it in our budget or not, is really what we're looking for.
Just on the general fund, right?
For the general fund at this point. So recognize that both the fire items potentially will go from the MUD budget. So you're now dealing with the recurring for police, the IT, our software OpenGov, which I'll withhold information until I see the presentation. And so do you want to include those items, the management training and the community events? Does anybody want to make comment about that?
Comment on the tree. So what's
Eric?
wrong with our current tree?
There's nothing wrong with it. We're shifting that tree over to Independence Park where we don't have a tree, where we have our event.
Have what event?
We have the Christmas
tree lighting.
lighting with a tree that's
Kids
just.
sing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Stories
So
of
that-
Oh, you're like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
No, I'm not Santa Claus.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah, Santa Claus, brother.
Oh, okay.
Santa Claus comes on a fire
You're
truck.
still Saint Nick.
Yeah, that's right.
It's always St. Nick.
Always Saint Nick.
They name all those clauses Nick.
25,000, woo.
Yeah.
It's a big tree.
Well, and that's just saying, I mean, I don't know if you went out and, have you gone out and got prices yet, or?
We have, yes, yes,
Okay.
we have.
And-
Yes.
and-
So the tree at the roundabout's roughly about 30 feet tall at the moment, so we're going to try to stick with that. That
Okay.
seems to work okay, and obviously by LED and pre-lit as well.
Right. And I remember the one, April, I think I was just on council, they just finished the roundabout, and April bought it, and it was pretty expensive. But they bought it off-season, I remember at the time, so they got a cheaper price supposedly.
All right, any other comments about these items?
Yeah, my name's there.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eric.
So you said you went out and got a price on 30-foot tree?
No, we're just
Oh,
looking
you
at
haven't
them.
yet?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Placeholder.
All right.
So it could come in cheaper if Alicia shops for
Yeah.
it.
All right, let's move on then.
Before I move on to the next fund, I just wanted to say one more time, or actually just clarify with Councilman Rowan for all of you. I was responding to your capital replacement in generality, but specifically to the MUD, if I can be more specific about that. Because they reimburse us for those expenditures specifically for that department, we expense all of those items. So really, it would be for them to record on their books as assets and then to be putting away money on their side. So just to kind of clarify that.
And I think that what Ryland's getting at, and we're going to see this later on in parkland dedication, is that there are items, we probably need to really have a hard look as a council on capital replacement, because we're continuously getting these big ticket items that probably should be set aside for in out years, because they continuously come to us, back to us for replacement of these items. So I understand where you're going, Ryland.
All right,
Okay. So I am moving into Parkland Dedication Fund. And in this fund, all of these items are really, that we're presenting to you, are really one-time capital improvements to decrease the burden of the tax rate on the general fund. And so to begin with, we're asking for a replacement on the pool pump for the shade structure, one time, these are all one time, for $9,500. This is a larger structure needed to protect the new wall of mounted electrical components. The next item is repainting and resurfacing the splash pad for $50,000. This provides a higher quality of surface by repairing chips and the faded color. The next item is a blue light emergency call boxes for $36,000. This acts as a crime deterrent and creates a sense of security and serves as an emergency communication system. This item was brought up during our finance subcommittee, and our subcommittee recommended 3 of these units, and they're $12,000 each. The next item is Musco lighting installation at Harmony Park for $190,000. This provides more usage on the outfields, out on the fields 1 through 4. The Soccer Association will be able to play night games, which will potentially alleviate games from being played at Lakeview. This potentially will be offset with grant revenue of $50,000 if awarded, and also the Soccer Association has agreed to match $70,000 of the full amount. And then lastly, the Harmony Park large playground replacement for $100,000. Approximately 17 years old, this equipment and the components are obsolete. A new playground will be more aesthetically pleasing, modern, and safer for children. In total, this fund is asking for $385,500 in supplemental items.
Eric, you have the floor.
I think we need a future agenda item to discuss Parkland Dedication Fund. Item 1, replace pool pump shade structure. Has it ever been replaced before?
No, it's a new thing.
Do you ever anticipate replacing it again? Then it should be capital replacement.
Only when it's out of warranty in the
Yeah.
future and if it starts
I think this is
tearing.
the wrong place to pay for it. How about repainting, servicing the splash pad?
That was done a few years ago.
That was done a
You
few
do
years
this
ago.
every once in a while. I think this is the wrong place to put it then. It should be capital replacement. Blue light emergency call boxes, to me, that's a great place for CCPD, not Parkland Dedication Fund. Installation of the lighting at Harmony, we were just given a presentation on this. Nothing was mentioned about Parkland Dedication Fund. What was mentioned was a grant. So has the grant been applied for?
Not yet, no, sir.
Why?
Well, because,
A long time ago.
yeah.
Do it.
Okay.
Large playground replacement, yeah, that's cool. That's the kind of thing I think I would lean more towards using this fund for, so.
Okay.
Greg?
Budget Committee, we did not recommend the 190,000. We wanted to have a lighting survey or whatever you call it, and that's still a question of whether that's really needed or not. You have the little kids out there at 8, 9 o'clock, in the summertime, lights, it's light out till 9:30, so that was a question. And the call boxes, The only one that I sort of agreed with was the one by the amenity ponds, because it's all open, you can see the call box, you can go to it. But with the amount of trails that we have, I don't know how many miles or whatever, but to have two, I mean, what are the odds that somebody's going to get hurt by those two call boxes? I mean, because we have trails all over the place. So I would pull those two out. That's just my recommendation, and I'm pretty sure the Budget Committee kind of went with us on that.
If I may, I did note that the subcommittee recommended specifically the Musco lighting installation at Harmony Park and the Harmony Park large playground replacement. The subcommittee noted that wasn't a critical, those weren't critical items at this time, and they recommended those be maybe presented in out years. And I just left them on there for the full council to look at, but I did note that that was your recommendation.
Ryland?
I will echo what Eric said just about the general nature of how I would prefer to utilize the Parkland Dedication Fund versus some of the maintenance items, obviously. I think that probably goes without saying. I'm agreeing with Greg on the call boxes. When I saw the item, it reminded me of college, because I remember seeing those around in college before anyone had cell phones in their pockets. I'm not as old as some people, but I am old enough to have gone to college without a cell phone, much less a smartphone. My fear is that they would be, the ROI would be virtually non-existent there. Although I think maybe like Greg said, there's one or two particularly odd places where it might work. So I would just caution there. Yeah, that's all I have at this point. I do agree that we want to think about the Harmony Park situation for lighting. To determine. I don't feel like I know enough yet. I certainly want to pursue the grant, but in lieu of no grant, I think we have to look hard at the yield on how many extra actual games you can get on those smaller fields.
So my comments, I agree that some of these items maybe should be looked at coming from other places other than our Parkland dedication. And I agree with Eric that a discussion about how we use Parkland dedication really ought to be on a future agenda item, that we begin to give ourselves some guidelines, or I think it will just disappear before our eyes. Third, I support the blue light emergency call boxes personally. I do not support the Musco lighting aspect. I had questions about, would it really be used, because in the season when your young kids are playing soccer, I don't think that they're out at 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. They're home trying to get supper. So I'm not sure that solves the problem, even though they say alleviate use at Lakeview. So I just need justification for that. And I think as far as the Harmony Park playground equipment, I don't believe I was against that at the meeting, but other than I asked, I would like to see what that really entails, what's it going to do, and is this the year to do it, or that kind of thing. So those were my comments about it. Philip?
Yeah, but I think the debate could be on the Harmony Park playground. Should that be in capital replacement? Because that sort of goes into that 10-year plus useful life. We've gotten 17 years out of it. So I think a lot of those things are going to continuously be replaced, and we probably should look at capital replacement. I sort of agree with Greg on I agree with Greg on the blue light. I think that the docks is certainly one where I would put one, only because my kids don't have phones. So if they're out at the dock, they're not going to have a cell phone to call if something happens. And so you have that aspect. And I certainly would love to hear a presentation from the two chiefs on exactly where emergencies happen in town, where, potentially it could help if they had this access to this. And I don't disagree that it could come from CCPD. And again, I agree with Eric on some of these items as far as capital replacement. And the Musco lighting, I think we should go for the grant. I listened to the Parks and Rec meeting, and it was brought up, and what was said is that we were waiting for the grant until they received the lighting engineer study that the mayor requested, and I don't think that that was his intention. I think the intention was to look at that before we approved it. But go ahead and try to apply for the grant and see, what happens with the grant.
If I may, just for a second, we do have to have approval of the money needed for the grant. So in other words, if the town is required to be responsible for $70,000, we have to show that, we have to provide that information to the organization.
So you're saying
prior to the act.
we cannot apply for the grant unless this council approves it, to do the matching?
Correct. Correct.
Well, let's
And then
approve it, and then if we don't get the grant, we'll amend the budget. It's our money. We can decide not to spend it later if we want.
So I guess the question I would have is that something we should go ahead and try to approve and change our budget this year so that we could at least apply for the grant now? Or do we wait till October, November to do that? So you can get back to me on that later. So that's just kind of my comment about it. Okay, so Eric, you have the floor.
One question, in regards to the playground replacement, would that be something you would work with the Parks and Rec board, or would you keep it within staff?
No, I would bring it up to the Parks and Rec board.
Okay.
Absolutely.
As far as what type of accessibility there is for different children with different abilities, I apologize, I don't know what our current park system has.
Okay.
Does it have the ability for children with different needs to be able to enjoy a park?
The toddler playground was replaced approximately about a year and a half ago or so at Harmony Park, and it does have 2 swings for
A
handicap.
wheelchair type?
Yes, sir.
Access?
Yes, sir.
Is that the only thing we?
That's the only thing we currently have right at the moment.
I would definitely recommend that we look into some other ways of doing it. The town where my office is doing a very large, don't know the proper wording, but I think you understand what I'm referring to, a very accessible type of playground. And that would just, 100,000 is, it's going to be a lot more than 100, I would suspect.
Yes, sir.
But, that may be really what we end up going towards with parkland dedication money, something more of a.
Above and beyond what we have today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, and I guess we need to have that discussion, so y'all can have that discussion with Parks and Rec Board and whatnot, but, all right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else on this particular parkland fund? All right, move on.
All right, moving on to the CCPD fund. They're asking for a command vehicle for their captain patrol. It's a one-time $42,000 vehicle replacement that meets the requirements for that. And this is being asked of the CCPD fund to reduce the burden of property taxpayers. It's a good use of sales tax funds for a one-time capital purchase.
So we have limited amount that CCPD has available to them annually.
Yes, sir.
Because of debt that they're having to service.
Yes, sir.
So do you recall what our annual amount is that they can approve?
That's for a later conversation that I want to bring forward to you, but we have several ideas of how to move forward. First of all, in the general fund and in the hot mow and talking about the parking garage and issuing debt for that. That's one topic for later conversation. The second topic is maintaining our 11-cent INS rate and maintaining that level. And so we have an idea of relieving CCPD 2 years of owing debt service. And so we can increase how much we can spend out of their fund so that we can maintain that 11 cents. But again, that's for a later conversation, but they have capacity right now.
So
We've
I
also-
guess back to my original question was,
$100,000.
is what they have annually available?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the transfer to debt service. I'd have to look. I don't have that number.
Okay,
in
that's
front
what
of
I
me.
thought.
Yes, sir.
So at some point, I'd like to
Sure.
know what's anticipated for CCPD for
Sure.
the years. Thank you very much. Philip?
Let me just go back real quick. In the FY17 budget, so when you do the playground, are you going to replace the canvas portion of it as well?
That's not included in the $100,000, correct?
Okay.
So no.
Because in our FY17 budget, we had Harmony Park Playground, and the project description, this project will replace playground equipment at Harmony Park along with a canvas portion of the shade structure. And we had it in the out year in capital fund, capital replacement for $275,000.
Oh, I remember that.
So-
What year was it forecast for, like 2020 or something?
2020.
To 2020,
So
yeah.
I don't understand, where is that money?
Yeah.
Because we had it in the budget, it's listed in the budget, page 164, Harmony Park Playground, it says capital fund, capital replacement, FY 2020, project funding, $275,000. So, anyway, just something to research and
Absolutely.
get back with us.
Okay.
All right, anybody else on CCPD fund? All right, let's move on.
And finally, I come to Storm Drainage Utility Fund. Community Development is asking for the MS4 5-year plan. This is recurring of $30,000. It meets the TCEQ requirements for managing stormwater runoff, but I do want to articulate that this is not $30,000 every consecutive year. It's every 5 years that this amount hits. And this is a good use of our revenue stream from fees for tax relief to the general fund.
Yeah, I would like to look into adding to this. I'm gonna probably put this on future agenda, but I would like to update the report that you sent us. I would like to look into having them update that to what we have improved. So in other words, we've made the improvements at Fresh Meadow, we've made the improvements at Skyline, we've made the improvements at Indian Creek. So it would be nice if Freeze and Nichols basically told us, okay, here's what you've done, and here's how you've helped, here's how you've hurt, here's, they could look at the 3 culverts versus 4, and I'd also like them to expand that and look at what Schwab is doing, or Westlake, or Pro, whoever's doing that big construction project on the Turner Lake, I think it's called, and what impact that will have. I think that it would be good to either, if we can put that in the storm drainage utility fund as a supplemental item, I think that would be great to update that plan.
Okay, and that's some of the issues that we'll be speaking with them about here in 2 weeks when we meet with them, so.
Okay,
we've already-
yeah, because we have the groundwork, or we have the plan in place, we've never gone back and updated it as to some of the suggestions that they've.
With the new input.
Right, with the new things that we've done, which I think it's hard to say whether or not we should go ahead and plan in this year's budget for opening up that other culvert. I certainly think that we should plan somehow to pay for the easement part of it, but, it's hard to use an old study when you've done changes to say, oh, you should leave that closed. Maybe with the updated information, they would say, no, go ahead and open it. So it would be nice to at least get that up to date.
Yeah, and that's not a problem. We can bring Tignall and involve them with it as well, simply because that was their design.
And I really want to look at the Turner Lake project, because we really don't know what they're doing and how that's going to impact us. And I think it would be good to engage Freeze and Nichols on that.
Sure.
Anybody else on the storm drainage? All right, Amber. That's it, right?
All right, so that's our overall presentation for supplemental items, and then I'll circle back to OpenGov. And before I bring our account executive, Adam Schnall, up to speak in front of you, I just wanted to give my own introduction to my perspective of what I'm looking for in the budgeting software. I really believe that this software provides us budgeting and financial and reporting tools that will improve our service delivery. And in doing that, I think that this product provides us solutions. It does that in ways that automates our functions. It automates in-code information, our financial information into the system. It does that automatically. It simplifies our budget process. It makes modifications easier and accurate, such as changing the tax rate as we continue to work through this budget season together. And so I personally find that very exciting. It reduces how many redundancies we have in this process and our manual efforts, and reduces that opportunity for error that can happen in just manual and human transactions. And it eliminates in budget. So we're really consolidating 3 programs into one. So I think that really does speak volumes. It provides customized reporting and access, and it has a very high level of detail. And this is used by our internal staff and council and our citizens. It complies with our Transparency Stars program by the Texas Comptroller. And in fact, several other cities use this software, those stars are very difficult to obtain. They use this software to achieve all of their stars. They've accomplished that. And so we think that's very exciting too. So in general, for a timeline, with your consent and if you like the product, we would like to sign the contract at the end of this fiscal year, and then we'll have a more finite timeline of when it'll be implemented, but we're looking at about 6 months from the signing of the contract to fully using this product and all of its capabilities. So with that, I'll bring Adam up and he can kind of go through some of those details with you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me tonight. It's a pleasure to be here, and I did pay for my own ticket coming here, I promise you. Before we jump into everything here, I did want to go over kind of like at a macro level what OpenGov actually is. So if you guys see the cylinders at the base of the slide right here, you have your 311 system, your records management system, your case management system, and what is your Tyler Encode system, as well as others. And this is kind of an example as to what kind of systems you could potentially see in a government. And you'll see that none of these cylinders are actually connected. There are no arrows going back and forth. And as council members, as well as city managers and staff, you have to actually make decisions based off this siloed data. So essentially what we do is we take that data out of these siloed systems and we put it into what we call the OpenGov Cloud. And what that is essentially is it's a 3-pronged solution to help you plan, operate, and communicate a little bit better. Oops. Now, what the town is actually looking for is investing in those 3 solutions. So the first solution that I wanted to go over was actually the budget builder with personal cost forecasting. I actually added a couple of screenshots here to show you what it looks like. So essentially what this would do is it would actually put the control in the department heads' hands to actually manipulate the budget as they see fit without working in Excel. And also with personal cost forecasting, I work with governments from about $1 million to about $40 million in total operating budget. And what I've seen is that people do a lot of guesstimating and use a lot of Excel without fully understanding or grasping what each employee costs the government. Not saying that happens here, but this is kind of just a way to really get a direct answer as to what each cost would be. Any questions on this piece before I move forward?
Is it cool? I don't know how long your presentation is. I'm going to have some questions about how you guys intend to actually implement. So should I just wait until he's done with his presentation? I don't know what the presentation really looks like, so.
It's 4 slides.
Okay, cool. So go ahead and I'll hold my stuff for the end.
Okay. Just moving forward, should I wait for questions at the end as well?
It's up to them.
I'll get in line.
Okay. Cool. So the second solution that the town is actually looking at is something called operational performance. Now, what this is, my apologies, it looks really small up there, but I would be able to bring this up after the slideshow presentation. But it's essentially internal reports that essentially give you a direct understanding as to what is going on per department. So instead of looking at Excel documents or Word documents that are really hard to kind of understand and comprehend, you would be able to go in there and actually manipulate the visualizations to your desired filters. And the final solution would be the transparencies and stories, which actually folds into the citizen engagement solution. So I work directly with a lot of local governments in the state of Texas, and I know the Texas Transparency Star is something that is very sought over, and McKinney, Texas is using it. I'm partnering with Westlake, and I met with Roanoke today. And this is how we actually started off as a company. And this pretty much gives you the ability to, communicate with constituents by sharing the data from the town systems, as well as share a narrative about those data sets as well. And I also noticed that you guys have iPads here, which is also very interesting because you could actually bring up these reports on your iPads and you can manipulate it while you're discussing various topics.
Oh my gosh, we'll never get anything done. Philip, you're doing it all the time.
Philip won't get a login. It's fine.
Yeah. One final note on this, by the way, is all these solutions are actually directly integrated to your system, so you can conceivably get a nightly upload of this data, so you have a live feed of your data, essentially.
That's all.
Now, before I go into actually showing you guys the software, because I think you guys would love it, I do want to field some questions if you're all right with that.
Yeah.
All right, so I had two questions. They may not be for you. One of them is, in the different integration pieces where you had the various silos that you bring in a typical implementation, do your fees depend on how many silos you import? And are those services of configuring that so that it happens appropriately on an hourly basis, or is that included in your package price?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's actually included. So obviously, we would have to scope each and every system or evaluate it to make sure that we can directly integrate it with it. But ultimately, that's wrapped into the integration cost that I quoted for the town.
All right, and so so you're saying it's in the 20,000 that they've budgeted? Assuming you.
No, so there's an implementation cost, and we are looking to fund that in FY18, our current year, with savings that we have. So that's what we're looking to do. So the 20,000 increase to the budget line item was specific to the 5-year contract for actually using the product.
Okay. So my comment about that is, in the past, what I've seen is that we purchase a software product, people think that there's sufficient training or that they're going to be able to implement it appropriately, and it takes forever to get it started. So I'm going to come down real critical on trying to do something. Is it really reasonable in that period of time to do it? Given your workload and your staff, can you actually accomplish that implementation in that length of time, or should it be delayed over a period of time? So that'll come back to us. Then you mentioned in-budget reduction. I think that was your term, but I may be wrong. Does that mean if you got this, you would eliminate the use of in-budget?
Yes, sir.
Does that offer any savings for us?
Yes, sir. So we pay $7,500 right now annually for in-budget, and the cost of this product, I was saying this is a $20,000 increase because the cost of the product annually is $24,738, I believe, just over $24,000. So the net increase is $20,000, but we would be moving away from in-budget.
Okay.
May I answer your question about the implementation time?
Yes, if you'd like to.
I do feel like 6 months is reasonable, and again, this would be more solidified. This was a very general answer for you on timeline at this particular juncture. But the majority of the fall, I believe, would be giving them data and information so that they could work on building the software for us. And then towards winter, we would start training with them, and I have a very, very excited budget manager that really would like to get his hands on this, so I know he will be very, very involved. And I do feel like towards the spring and entering into budget season, this will be available for internal staff to start using, and then using this actively throughout our budget process.
Yeah.
The next question is for you, Adam.
Do you mind if I just add on to that a little bit? Is it possible to add some color into that as well?
Sure.
So the way we structure our deployment is, of course, we work with governments anywhere from 1 million all the way up to the state level right now. And we do actually all the heavy lifting. So all we need to do once we set up the integration is we just need to set up the COA and general ledger is what it's called. And then all we have to do is train the staff on how to use it. So it's a very simple process, and it actually only takes 2 weeks to 2 months to fully deploy.
All right, so when Amber talked about building the software, really, all you're doing is scripting or developing interfaces to pull the data or process the data. You're not really building a piece of software.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I think from my standpoint, and to maybe save time at some of this, and I apologize that we didn't get to this sooner and you had to stay late. I think from anywhere you were in the United States, we could probably set up a time to do a web demo. And from my perspective, I would like to sit in on that with staff and look at some things in more detail. Philip probably would, but if we have him, we'll never get anything done. No, I'm just kidding. And Ryland surely might have 2 cents to add to some of this. So I don't know how you guys feel, but this was, I think, point 6 in my goals. I really want to see this happen. I really want to see it successful. And I just want to make sure that we're going to have the resources to do the job and that it will do the job. So all of this can happen in the next few months. I can put it in the budget without that information because I support it. I just want to make sure it's the right thing to do before we buy. Thank you. So anybody else? I'm sorry, Eric?
All right, few questions. How many users gonna have?
Over 19,000, or 1,900.
No, not your
No.
users.
No.
Sorry, Amber. How many users?
All of our managers, our directors, and then all 4 of my financial staff.
Can
I
you
don't-
count on how many?
More than 10 because we have 6
10 to 15,
directors.
10 to 20?
Probably around 20 because we also have mid-level managers that help with the budgeting process, and I would want to open up to them
Very
as
good.
well.
Maintenance cost, yearly maintenance cost for the software? 0.
So since we're a SaaS-based solution, it's actually annual subscription cost. So there's no upgrade fees, there's
25,000 a
no
year?
maintenance fees.
Just under.
So
Just under.
25,000 a year in maintenance cost?
Yeah.
Cool. How often do y'all change, how often do y'all go up in revisions?
It was a 5-year contract.
How often do
You mean
they go
software-
up? How often do you
software
go up on
releases.
revisions?
Like how often do we
Deployment
change our
schedule.
costs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've been in business for about 6 years now. And when we first started, we actually offered 1 or 2 products, which is actually when I first started. And we're continuously growing, right? So we just started to work with Canada. and-
No, so your
What version?
software has a certain revision, a version of software.
No, it's actually, so there is no version. So since it's SaaS-based, every time we update, you actually get the update.
How often
with
does that happen?
Monthly.
Okay.
Is it continuous, or do you have a
Yeah,
regular
we're continuing, yeah, we're always
Continuous
growing.
deployment?
So for example, I just showed them the personnel cost forecasting piece, which is something that's going to be added to the budget builder module. And the integrations used to just be ERP integrations, but now it covers the performance data as well. So every single update that we have that are included in the products that you currently have automatically get that update.
We get that, but
Next
just,
question.
Correct.
just how often? Is about monthly, is about what you said?
Yeah, so, you know, we're a fast-moving company, so we update things, you know, pretty regularly.
Next question, do we have a server to run the software?
So everything is housed on the cloud, AWS, so Amazon Web Services, and that's spread, you know, across the country.
You got
All
my
right.
vote.
Didn't we
It's
How
also
about
ADA
our
compliant.
local computers, the personnel, have our personal computers been reviewed to make sure that they're up to par to run the software?
Yeah, so the Tyler Encode system, we actually employed the executive vice president named Kent Hudson, who's actually in Dallas. So I actually asked him to attend this meeting, but he wasn't able to, unfortunately. So I would actually have him come on site to personally deploy the product himself. You know, the way to think about this is all the data that's already within your systems, we can already pull out, as long as there's an Excel file or a CSV file.
Has that been verified? They can get all the data we have?
Yes, sir.
Good. That was one of my next questions. Last question, actually, just a comment. Implementation, 6 months, I don't think that's a difficult goal, honestly. The last implementation I did at my company was a complete quote-to-cash software with 65 employees, and I had to do it in 3 months, and we got it done. 6 months, just what y'all are doing, I'm not worried a bit.
Ryland?
Okay, so going to the different silos of data that you can import, Amber, how many of those do you guys intend to actually deploy for the first phase of this?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but I don't consider this in phases. We're doing all of this at once.
You're going to do, so all those silos of data that you showed me earlier that
So
are
let me-
potentially available for import, you're going to do them all?
I'll refer to my budget manager because he's really involved in this.
All right.
Hey, budget manager.
John.
So we would deploy this specifically with Encode. So that would be the first, we don't have like a crime software that we use to track all of it.
Sure, that was more what I was getting at, is
Yes.
how many of those are we actually eligible to use today?
So it's our financial software. It's
So
Encode-
one.
Encode, which is our financial-
Encode, in budget.
Yeah, InBudget actually just feeds into Encode, so we just actually trade
Okay.
it all straight from Encode, but that also holds our personnel management
Okay,
system.
so do you intend in out years to integrate anything else, or is your main goal just to utilize it for finance?
So right now, our permitting software, they're linking it directly into Encode. It is an Encode software, but it doesn't communicate well. Same thing with our court, and so they're integrating into each other. InterGov, it's a subsidiary of Encode. So as that data comes available with Encode, those are things that we can build links to, and they'll automatically have since it's the same software.
Right, so in terms of when you guys go in to integrate a new data source from a different department, is there any additional charge for that integration?
No. And just to expand on that a little bit as well, if the town decided to link, let's say, police reports, fire reports, public works,
Yeah, I
taxable
get it. It can
property-
go across all the
Yeah,
different aspects.
everything.
I get that. Okay. So, but my point is that you guys are going to integrate whatever we can make available. We're going to be reaching out to you guys and say, we're ready to integrate X department software, and then you guys are going to look at it and
Evaluate it.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the mechanics of that for a minute, and let's just stay focused on finance. But think about this in terms of extracting the maximum value from this investment, and that you really want to be able to do more than just finance with it. Sorry, before I move forward, so what's your pricing model like? What is your scale based on? Like,
Yeah.
how do you determine how to price the subscription?
That's a great question. So we base our pricing based off of total operating budget, as well as which products you would like to purchase. So obviously, we're a very diverse suite. And the state of Texas would be essentially able to use the same software that the town would be using. But obviously, we wouldn't be charging you the same amount as the state.
Sure, so it's a sliding scale based on our operating budget. Okay,
Correct.
so I'll get that part. So which pieces are we looking at this proposal for the quote that we have? Is that all of the pieces, or are there other pieces that we're not?
So there's two capabilities that are not included.
Out of how many total?
6.
3 or 6? So
Or-
we're
8.
8, so we're looking at 6 out of 8? Okay, and you guys believe that we can utilize all 6 for finance?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, cool. So now I get back to where I was going originally with that. So you talked about how we're going to be getting data out of Encode. What is, from staff perspective, what is your plan for getting data out of Encode, and on what cadence and through what method? Like, how are you going to continuously import this data into Encode? Or, I'm sorry, into OpenGov from Encode?
So that actually happens with the integration. So the whole idea of the integration is the finance team, or any other team for that matter, doesn't actually need to touch the data. They just decide when they want to upload it. And, they can speak for themselves as to how often they would like the data uploaded. But from my clients, they really gain a lot of return on investment on a nightly upload, because then they get.
Okay, so how are we going to do the nightly upload?
I would prefer not to do an upload night load. I would prefer that, but our work in progress throughout the month is us entering, and then we haven't finalized our functions to deliver you the monthly financials.
So your hope is to do it monthly?
So my hope is to do it monthly, to say that we bring to you everything that is in
Okay.
detail, and then that will be uploaded.
So our goal is to do it monthly. Okay. So now let's talk about actual data quality. Do you guys expect, when you're integrating with Encode, do you already know what the format of the data should look like coming out of Encode, and that's already been developed and done, and you just know that you integrate with Encode directly, and you've got whatever you've got to bring that Encode data in, and all they've got to do is say, export my Encode data?
Yep.
Yeah. Is there any variation at all? Does Encode provide any options or customizations that we might have on our Encode deployment that would make it more difficult for you to integrate?
Nope.
None? So there's only
Zero.
one way to get data out of Encode?
No, certainly not. I mean, we export from M-Code all the time, and we generally do it to.
Correct,
their-
but when you export it, it only comes out in one format with one set of fields and one set of data?
Yes.
With whatever parameters
Right.
you give it for date range, for
Right.
example? Okay, okay, so that's cool. Okay, so you guys, you're saying you don't have to do any custom development at all? You basically just go, oh, Encode, great. We support Encode imports and we're done, right?
Yeah, so technically, we're not in a partnership with Tyler right now, but, we have the people who actually worked on developing that product itself. And the worst thing that we've seen is actually just manipulating the export to be 2 columns rather than, 5.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, so you guys don't do any type of, what kind of transformation do you do to the data after you get it? Because obviously you're doing more with it than just taking it raw. You're rolling it up and doing some stuff to deliver some additional value. So what kind of transformation is done to the data, and what kind of process do you have that validates that when they see it, they're going to see your numbers and say, those numbers are exactly what Encode has?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, honestly, the numbers that we put into OpenGov are directly from your system, and, just speaking to the deployment, we don't actually move forward with the next stage of deployment until we get the sign-off from the town to make sure it actually looks legitimate. Now, with the integration, that just continuously, feeds the same data set.
Right, as long as we don't change anything on our side,
Yeah.
unbeknownst. So, okay, let me let the cat out of the bag. I do this for online retailers. That's my job. So, I know all the ways people can screw this up. So basically, what I'm trying to do by asking these questions is make sure you guys understand that the value you get from this, the quality of the data, everything rests on your shoulders. Every time you get something out of Encode, it needs to be done exactly the same way every time. If anything remotely changes, you need to make sure they know that that's a potential change and that it's not going to change the way the data looks on the other side coming out. And then obviously, if you want to go into something more than a monthly manual import or transfer or whatever, export, whatever, however you want to call it, then that spells out in a whole different, a whole different ball of wax in terms of what we have to do on our end to automate that. Let me think if there's anything else. You done? You good? You good? Greg's good. Thank you guys for answering my questions.
The lidocaine has just about warmed up.
Sorry.
Okay. Adam, you didn't expect this, did you?
That
was last. This
I
kind
mean,
of,
I think he did.
Moderately, yeah.
oh, moderately?
Yeah,
That's because Amber and
No, I can
told you
actually,
something?
so you would be surprised as to, what I could expect and what I could not expect. And, I've honestly have been very surprised over the course of my 2.5-year career. I've seen pretty much everything there is to see, such as, unfortunately, FBI officers coming down to a town hall and actually ripping out all the computers.
Awesome.
So,
I'm sure. Oh, well, speaking
yeah,
of
so
that.
safe to say, like, I've
Speaking of that, they
pretty
didn't
much
realize
seen
that
everything.
they didn't realize that all your data wasn't on premise. So let's get back to AW.
That's right. Wait a minute, wait.
You can seize all the computers.
Ryland, wait
It's
a
in
minute.
Virginia, bro. Sorry.
Okay.
It's actually really close to Langley. It's in Virginia. Anyway,
Wait a minute, wait.
sorry.
You're already off, and
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I did have one more.
I'll come back.
But no, you're good.
sorry.
Greg's bored. It's fine.
I just wanted to confirm, based on, I understand the pricing, that whether we had 1 user or 50 users, the price doesn't change. Yeah.
Correct.
All right, I just ask it that way to make sure. All right, we're back. Philip, your turn.
Yeah.
Then I come back to Ryland.
So everything that I'm seeing here in McKinney, is that what we're getting? We would get all of this?
Do you have their site open right now?
Yes.
Do you mind, I know you guys didn't want to see a demonstration, but do you mind if I go to a quick page?
I'm just going to use the restroom. I don't understand this anyways.
Yeah, I
Is that right?
I have no problem.
I want to do that too, but I want to see this.
So the answer is yes. long story short, but it really just depends on how you want to build out the solution, right? So this is actually my favorite example. This is the County of Placer, which is actually in California. The reason why I brought this up was because they recently redid their website, so this actually isn't OpenGov at all. You'll see in the right-hand corner here, like a screenshot of, the product itself, some cool little, what would you call that? Statistics, I guess, about, why it's valuable to do government transparency. And what they did was they hyperlinked OpenGov into that site specifically because they were getting public information requests all the time about the same thing. And this is would be your OpenGov report. Right, so this would be your budget to actual information from 2012 onward. We can actually upload 10 years back of historical data for you to, kind of analyze, I guess. And the reason why I wanted to show you this example is the Save View function right here. So the Save View function is essentially a report that's structured around the basic kind of questions that you get all the time. Right, so for example, let's say I was a council member, concerned constituent, and I was honestly kind of curious about how much has the county spent on libraries. This would bring up every single fund that's associated with the library, right, or expenditure, excuse me. And let's say I was curious about salaries and employee benefits, and specifically curious about salaries. And let's say, I really wanted to know how much overtime we were paying our librarians. Right, it's just a really easy way to slice and dice the data, drill down. It's very user-friendly. All the data is always listed below here, and you can also manipulate the visualization to communicate a lot of different stuff. Now, one quick thing as well is, you of course choose what kind of data you want to put online. Right, so for example, we have all these filters where people could actually make conceivably their own reports about the data that you put online, and let's say they made a completely insane visualization. They would be able to send you this URL, and Amber would actually be able to see exactly what they're looking at and answer that question. That goes for you guys as well.
Okay, so then the question for staff is if you're just doing the upload monthly when you feel comfortable that the books are closed, so tonight, if we had this fully operational, would we just be seeing April?
Yes, sir.
So we wouldn't see, so it's not going to help us to get more relevant data quicker?
Not to that degree, no, sir.
Okay,
Because it's still work in progress and it's not finalized.
okay. Thanks.
All right. Ryland, did you want to ask your other question?
No, that was kind of part of where I was
Adam,
going.
thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you. Appreciate it.
Amber, thank you.
Thank you.
We were finished with the presentation, right? So, all right, so did you, hopefully you got some input tonight
I did.
to help refine this to bring back to us. Council, any other questions about the presentation?
I just have one question just for Amber and John. So do you guys feel that, or I guess I have an idea in my head based on what y'all just said, but what do y'all think is the biggest value of this to staff?
To staff?
Yeah, what is
It's the budgeting component.
what is, in what way does this make your job easier?
So when we started this conversation, we had just finalized FY18, which by the way, we just got our award for it, and we're really pleased with that. But there were a couple of errors in there, and that reduced confidence in the amount of information that we were providing to you. And that wasn't the result of our incompetence and not understanding what we're doing. It's a result of human error with the amount of time we have and the amount of volume. But it's also the workflow. And this is a conversation we had with town manager Class, was that the way that this process is designed, it's not efficient. We're importing and exporting and importing and exporting, and to make one little change requires so many steps. And that level of complication and redundancy, it just gives a huge opportunity for error. So our main objective with this, when we first started looking at this with this particular team, I know this has been going on for a few years, we've been looking at this and the product has evolved. but specifically with us was how do we achieve better results with the work product that we're putting into it to give to you and to our citizens. And so from my perspective, I love transparency, and I love the application of that, and I want to utilize that to the maximum. But for my work function, I'm really excited about the budgeting process.
Okay, because what I hear, not having sat with y'all through your day-to-day life, but what I hear is that this gets you out of doing all of your day-to-day manipulation in Excel.
Yes, sir.
Basically. Like if you want to make some minor tweaks and look at how a change impacts other things that it touches, right now you've got to export out of Encode, get it into Excel, then you've got to manipulate that so that you can actually work with it in Excel like a normal human. Then you've got to do your work. Then you've got to remanipulate it to get it back into a way where you can import it into Encode.
Well, it's not just, it's in budget, right? That's
Oh,
where we do
right,
our
yeah,
main
you're doing two
software.
steps,
There's
yeah.
a lot of, there's
Yeah.
a lot of different things, the
Yeah.
actuals versus the in budget, but, and then exporting all of the in budget detail into Excel. And then I try to automate Excel as much as possible. I do VLOOKUPs and index match, right? But some of those things, that there's going to be errors, and I always want to make sure that they reconcile, and it's a lot of moving parts, so.
I guess my frustration is you can't see data, you can't see data very quickly. In other words, I'm looking at McKinney and I see that a council member got paid $300 on May the 31st. So, I mean, they're, boom.
They're saying a month. McKinney's doing it daily.
Well, I don't know how often they're doing it, but at least I can see May. What she's saying is if we had this up and running, we could only see April.
No, only because she's only uploading once a month.
No, because they're waiting to finalize it. So I think
It's for council to direct truly, because Adam just said that it has the capabilities. It's just my preference that we wait, because it's not only you that's looking at it, it's our citizens. And I don't want them to be, misguided by information that possibly is not correct because we have posted transactions, we haven't reviewed those transactions yet. We have a lot of volume in our department through, the service we provide to all of the departments and funds, and so that's my concern level.
It would seem to me, though, that we could and should do a better job than a monthly upload.
Yeah, once you have it under wraps, know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's impossible for those who don't have to do it. I don't have to do it, but a month does seem a little excessive for me.
I'm just saying that that's my frustration, that even if I have this, it's not going to help what I'm trying to accomplish and see data as a council member that's current.
Right, there's
You
three,
know?
sorry to speak out of turn, but I see that there's three benefits. There's public benefit, staff benefit, and council benefit. And public, it's a nice to have, but not very many people are going to get online and look at it.
Okay, Nick, you have the floor. Okay.
Yes, you have the floor.
I have the floor, thank you. So, I think we're talking about two different things in the availability of data. One is that right now you're somewhat behind in closing your months and getting the work done. Is that a fair statement or not? Because here we are mid-June, and you haven't finished May.
So it's a matter of timing for us and the time that it takes to close those books. But we start our bank reconciliations at the very beginning of the month, and then we spend the next week or so going through the financial information, and then we send it all to the departments, and they're responsible for going through their transactions and ensuring that everything is complete and posted in the correct place. We meet with our internal departments, we go over the budget, and then it's set on the agenda. So for all that to take place, that's why you're seeing it late. It's a timing issue to get it to you, but it's part of the process we do each month on doing our financials and the accounting work that's necessary.
I understand that. And that's something I would just like to say to Tom. I know I speak for myself, I probably speak for Philip also, is that if there's something we can do to make that faster, if that costs money, I would be willing to find money to do that in the budget. So my concern that has been for the last year, roughly, is the finance department somewhat got smaller with less resources.
Yes, sir.
And then we ask you to do more, and So my concern is, we maybe have cut off our nose to spite our face, so to speak. To solve that problem that you just explained of all these steps, is there a way to pump more resources, get it faster, is just what I'll ask you to look at. That's just the second thing. And then in the issue of doing it more timely, once a week, daily, whatever that is, there are ways to accomplish that to make you comfortable by flagging the transaction that has already been imported so it doesn't import it again unless it changed. So there are ways to solve that to be faster, but I understand you'd prefer that it was at close. But I bet you can set up a filter that says public doesn't see a month that's not closed. But you ought to be able to see the month that's not closed, because I think the reporting mechanism will help you find the problems. So it seems like if that data is more current, you might have a report that does comparison so that you say, wait a minute, there's no way this account went from 10,000 to 50,000. Something is wrong. And you could have a report that says, just show me the things that are out of variance. And I think you'd have the tools to be able to do that, where now you're having to deal with Excel and make sure you got certain cells updated, and it's just more complicated. So just a comment to you. Adam's shaking his head back there. Adam's going to help you do that every month when he comes to Texas.
I have to come for July 4th. That looks like a lot of fun.
Oh, boy.
But don't go to the country club to see fireworks. Okay. I don't see anybody else wanting to speak about this item.
Really? Let me check. Oh, you're right.
Greg, you never put your name in.
No. You know what? For years,
Put your name in there.
Wait a minute, point of order.
all right, okay. For years, I always complained that the two software guys on our council never said anything about software. Boy, do I regret that.
Amber, thank you so much, and John and Adam for putting this together. I'm excited about it. I think Philip's already decided he's going to look at McKinney's data and compare it to ours all the time, so. Ooh, okay. Well, we'll strike that from our budget. Okay. Anything else on this particular item?
We'll move on.
All right, we're going to go to 15, discussion and provide direction to town staff regarding potential items to place on the joint session agenda between Trophy Club Town Council and Trophy Club Mud 1. Anybody have any comments here?
Mayor, we have no specific comments. We're looking for direction on what it is that council would like us to place on the agenda. With the mud, I have talked with the mud general manager. It looks like we're going to have the joint meeting on the 24th. He's got to get one more approval for that, but
24th of?
July is what we've tentatively scheduled that for. He's also going to be meeting with his board, I believe, in the next week to do the same thing that council's doing insofar as coming up with some agenda items. And then the town and the mud secretaries will get together on the agenda. So we're just looking for direction now from council on what you'd like to see on that agenda.
All right, Ryland.
Yeah, I believe we've had on our future agendas for some time a discussion of the annex building.
Property.
I'm pretty sure you put that on there. Yeah, the property. So I would assume we would want to address that. I would also say for staff, if you guys feel, I know there's been over the years, varying levels of cooperation and disconnect and back and forth on how good it goes year to year as far as how we deal with streets projects and syncing with the fact that the mud sometimes takes advantage of those infrastructure projects to take care of their own stuff that they have in those same areas as far as sewer and water lines and things of that nature. So if there's something staff wants to pursue there relative to a policy or some kind of cadence or some kind of technique for dealing with that involves the boards, I would recommend that. If it doesn't involve us, even better, but if it needs to, then maybe we should talk about that. Those are the only two things I can think of at the moment.
All right, Greg?
The other thing was the storage vehicle bond over by the wastewater treatment plant. We're going to look at ownership on that. And And do we want to address the old police facility, the trailers? And
I don't know.
they may bring it up anyway, so.
I think you may find that on their agenda item. I had a conversation yesterday, and I know they're interested in getting some resolution there as well.
All right. So anything else that you have for the MUD meeting? Anybody? All right. Hearing none, then we'll move on to 16. Discussion of items for future agenda to include agenda items for consideration on the June 26th council agenda and items for the future agenda list. So I made notes of two things that council made comments on. One, I think, was Jensen said a discussion about Parkland Dedication Fund and uses for that fund. And so, Eric, are you wanting that sometime on future agenda, or what was your
I
intention?
think it'd be appropriate.
Okay. So let's add that, discussion of Parkland Dedication Fund along with uses of that. And then Philip would like to see some input from Freeze and Nichols or somebody to update our drainage plan, I think.
And I don't know if that needs to be on future agenda or if that may be something that will be added to supplemental.
Well, let's add it to future agenda because
That's
I
fine.
think in order to
To remind
interface with
us.
Westlake and what's going on, it's going to take a while to get that data.
That's fine.
That's just me personally. All right, and then the other, anybody else have something for the future agenda? I have something for the next agenda, and it's kind of a question. I raised this issue earlier. In order to apply for the grant for the playground equipment, isn't that what it's for, the playground equipment, or the?
Lighting.
The Musco lighting.
Okay. We need to have a budget approval of matching funds. So the question I have for council is, do you want to consider reasonably fast a change to the budget to be able to accomplish applying for that, realizing that you're not going to spend the money if you don't get the grant, but my understanding is you can't apply for the grant unless you have it in your budget.
Question.
Eric?
So so first we've heard of that was tonight, even though we had that presentation, seems like 2 months ago. So I'm confused on, did they go to apply for it and they're like, oop, got to fill this in? What happened?
No, we've known all along that we've got, it has to be a budgeted item to apply for the grant.
Okay.
And it could be that council doesn't see it as that urgent. And I guess the question I'd ask is, well, what's the deadline for applying for the grant? If we don't know the deadline, then how do we know how fast we have to move? So
We probably need to put it on.
the agenda.
But,
Yeah, it's put on the agenda.
but I think and I'd have to go back and look at the motion, but I think the motion was to apply for the grant.
Right.
It
was.
How can
Yeah.
you apply for the grant if you?
But if we haven't amended our budget or authorized that, then that makes it more difficult. So if you would, Tom, let's add a discussion and appropriate action directing staff in reference to applying for the grant for the lighting at Harmony Park and potential budget amendment, if that covers what y'all think it needs to cover. Does that make sense? I just don't want to, you need to know the date's the deadline before it becomes urgent to us. So if the date is 90 days from now, then I don't need it next week. But, so I just need to know better what's going on there. All right, anybody have something for the next meeting?
Greg?
Greg? Thank
When you
you.
say we have to budget it, does it have to come, actually, in the budget, can we put it in a capital project where it's allotted for future, and then we can apply? Do we actually,
Parkland Dedication Fund.
where we don't have to physically affect the budget?
Until you talk to them, I don't think you know the answer to that. But let's get the specs. You're going to get that. If you leave it on the agenda, you'll have all that data next time.
All right.
That's my opinion, anyway. At least you should.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Just to let everybody know, just because we're getting ready to go into executive session, I will not be at the next council meeting, and Councilmember Schaffner, Mayor Pro Tem Schaffner,
He waited until I didn't have to do it.
will. So I'm going to be out of town. However, I am going to have internet connectivity, and I'm going to be watching it on Facebook, and I'm going to be making comments. So you should be
I'll be ready.
ready
I'll live in infamy.
so I can make it.
A day that will live in infamy.
30-minute meeting.
The time Greg ran one, it was very short.
It was.
Yeah, okay,
Not my meeting, it'll be long.
You can be replaced.
okay. So council, anything else before we go to executive session? Hearing no one. Item number 17, pursuant to the following designated section of the Texas Government Code, annotated Chapter 551, Texas Open Meetings Act, the council will convene an executive session to discuss the following. A, Section 551071, consultation with attorney under subsection 2, to consult with the town attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meeting Act, specifically, 1, breach of contract issues, procedures, and claims, 2, public information laws. Item B, Section 551072, deliberation regarding real property, to discuss or deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property in deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with a third person, north of State Highway 114, east of Texas Trophy Club Drive, and west of town limits. Item C, Section 551074, personnel matters under subsection 1, to discuss or deliberate the appointment, evaluation, and duties of a public officer or employee. 1, Parks and Recreation Board. 2, Council Finance Subcommittee. And 3, Town Council Appointments Committee. It is it's 10:55. We are in executive session.
5-hour meeting.
It is 11:28, and we will reconvene into regular session. Item number 18, consider and take appropriate action repealing Resolution 2017-33 and adopting a new resolution appointing a council liaison on the Park and Recreation Board, reaffirming existing appointments and chairperson, and providing an effective date. Someone like to make a motion approving 2018-09, filling in the blank of who that liaison would be.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2018-09, appointing Alicia Fleury as council liaison to the Parks and Recreation Board, reaffirming existing appointments and chairperson, and making that effective June 12th, 2018.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Anybody else have any discussion about this? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those approving the resolution, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. It is unanimous. Item number 19, consider and take appropriate action regarding appointing 3 council members to a council subcommittee formed for the purpose of providing fiduciary oversight of the budget, as well as providing input regarding the administration of the budget and the budget process. Anybody wish to make a motion to nominate a 3-person committee?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to nominate Eric Jensen, Ryland Rowe, and Mayor Nick Sanders to the Financial Subcommittee.
I have a second.
Second.
Seconded by Kurtz. Motion by Schaffner. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. It is unanimous. Item 20, consider and take appropriate action regarding making appointments to the Town Council Appointments Committee. I would entertain a motion to form that committee with 3 council people.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to nominate Mayor Nick Sanders, newly sworn-in Councilmember Tim Kurtz, and Councilmember Eric Jensen to the Appointments Committee.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Rowe, motion by Schaffner. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor of approving this subcommittee nominations, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. No opposed. It is passed. Item 21, consider and take appropriate action regarding the executive session, any action that we make. Council, any action you wish to take at this time in reference to executive session? Hearing no one seeking to vote, it is 11:31. We are adjourned.
5 hours, 5-hour meeting. First one you had?
Yeah, it is.
At least I think it's 11:31.